The divine sword is invincible. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 876, The Second Heaven-Defying Divine Body. The competition for outer disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion has arrived. Before dawn, the entire competition mountain is already crowded. Because Yangzai Ocean is going to participate in this competition for outer disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, there are a lot of people coming. Not only outer disciples, but also many inner disciples, core disciples, and even many high-level people of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. Since the Lord of the Mansion said 2 years ago that if Yangzai Ocean can win the first place in this competition for outer disciples, the reward will be doubled. Everyone knows that the Lord of the Mansion will pay attention to this competition for outer disciples. After knowing that the Lord of the Mansion is paying attention to this competition, all the outer disciples are excited, thinking about how to show their strength later, so that the Lord of the Mansion will pay attention to themselves. As time goes by, more and more people come to the competition mountain. Huang Yan and the Masters of the Eternal Divine Kingdom also arrived early. She stood in the crowd, looking forward to it. Thinking that she will see Yangzai Ocean's godhood later, she can't calm down. As everyone is looking forward to it, Yangzai Ocean, Dongfang Ao and the Masters of the Dongfang family break through the air. Yangzai Ocean is here, someone in the crowd said in surprise. Suddenly, everyone looked at Yangzai Ocean. Lin Wei, who had already arrived, also looked at Yangzai Ocean. Looking at Yangzai Ocean, who was walking in the air and wearing a blue shirt, his eyes were cold. These days, many disciples have compared Yangzai Ocean with him. For Lin Wei, this is a shame. What qualifications does Yangzai Ocean have to be compared with him who has the Chaos Godhead? Don't worry, young clan leader, Yangzai Ocean will die today. An inner disciple said to Lin Wei flatteringly. Lin Wei nodded, but the only pity was that he couldn't personally deal with Yangzai Ocean today. Under the gaze of everyone, Yangzai Ocean and Dongfang Ao came to the scene. After a while, seeing that the time for the competition was about to come, Elder Zhang Jingxi landed on the stage and said, "Since everyone is here, the disciples who have signed up for the competition please come forward to draw lots to decide the opponent." Yangzai Ocean flew forward, came to the stage, and drew lots with a group of disciples. Yangzai Ocean drew number 2 in the first match. When everyone saw that Yangzai Ocean drew number 2, they all looked at the numbers in their hands. The disciple who drew number 2 with Yangzai Ocean was Sun Yan. This Sun Yan was quite powerful, and was at the early 10th level of the Lord of God. Seeing that Yangzai Ocean drew Sun Yan, who was at the early 10th level of the Lord of God, everyone couldn't help but get excited. Generally speaking, those who sign up for the Outer Disciples competition are all at the middle 10th level of the Lord of God or above. This Sun Yan dared to sign up at the early 10th level of the Lord of God, which shows his confidence in his own strength. I didn't expect Yangzai Ocean to draw Sun Yan. In the void, the giant ape ancestor Bailiu said, "It seems that Yangzai Ocean will lose miserably in the first match." As Bailiu was, he naturally would not pay attention to the outer disciples, but this Sun Yan was an exception. Because Sun Yan, like him, was a disciple of the giant ape clan, and the most outstanding disciple of this generation of the giant ape clan. Sun Yan's giant ape heaven-shaking divine art has been cultivated to the 14th level, right? Wu Yin, the heaven-shaking sword ancestor, said, with Sun Yan's current combat power, Yangzai Ocean may not even be able to take a punch from Sun Yan. Wu Yin had also heard a little about this Sun Yan. Zhao Ming, the supreme Kangsu, did not speak, and watched the competition in the void with other ancestors. However, everyone had to admit that Yangzai Ocean may not even be able to take a punch from Sun Yan. The giant ape heaven-shaking divine art is one of the top techniques of the divine domain beast clan. After successful cultivation, one will have infinite strength, amazing defense, and extremely strong attack. Once cultivated to the 14th level, one can condense the giant ape god, and the power will be even more amazing. Although Sun Yan is in the early 10th level of the Divine Lord, his combat power is comparable to many disciples in the late 10th level of the Divine Lord. Yang Xiaoshan, on the other hand, came to the number 2 ring with a calm face. Sun Yan had already come to the number 2 ring. He looked at Yang Xiaoshan. Yang Xiaoshan, right? I heard that you have cultivated the Hongmeng divine body and the 5 most powerful swords. However, you, a disciple of the 1st level of the Divine Lord, actually want to challenge us, the 10th level of the Divine Lord. You are simply ignorant of the height of heaven and earth. Today I will let you know that no matter how strong your talent is, the 10th level of the Divine Lord is not something you, a 1st level Divine Lord, can challenge. At this point, the 14th level of the giant ape heaven-shaking divine art was activated, and a violent airflow wrapped around his body. Behind him, 1,000-foot-tall giant ape god condensed. I don't use a divine weapon, I will use this pair of flesh fists. If you can take my punch, I will admit defeat. Sun Yan said, his eyes fierce, and he took a step forward. He had already come in front of Yang Xiaoshan and suddenly punched him. The 1,000-foot-tall giant ape god behind him roared and shook the sky. The power of shaking the sky burst out from Sun Yan's fists. At this moment, Sun Yan activated the power of all his divine veins and the power of his divine body. Seeing that Sun Yan used the 14th level of the giant ape heaven-shaking divine art and activated the power of all his divine veins and the power of his divine body, everyone looked at Yang Xiaoshan with their hearts tensed. Huang Yan, the 7th princess of the eternal divine kingdom, clenched her hands nervously and her heart was thumping. Seeing that Sun Yan was going all out, without holding back his strength at all, Lin Wei sneered at Yang Xiaoshan. Although Yang Xiaoshan's Hongmeng divine body was strong, he was only the 1st level of the Lord of Gods, and it was impossible for him to block Sun Yan's punch. Facing Sun Yan's punch, Yang Xiaoshan did not draw his sword, but activated the 17th level of the Hongmeng divine body. The 10,000 feet of Hongmeng God condensed, and the power of Hongmeng evolved the Hongmeng world. Immediately afterwards, Yang Xiaoshan's whole body of divine light surged again. The 2nd divine body was activated. The power of Hunio and destiny swept across the world. What kind of divine body is this? How can it have the power of destiny? Seeing Yang Xiaoshan activate the 2nd divine body, some inner disciples were shocked. It's the divine body of destiny. A core disciple's face changed drastically and he exclaimed, "What? The divine body against heaven, the divine body of destiny? But how can the divine body of destiny have the aura of Hunyuan?" Everyone was shocked. Elder Zhang Jingxi lost his voice and said, "It's the Hunyuan divine body of destiny, it's Hunyuan." Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan activated not only the divine body of destiny, but also the Hunyuan divine body of destiny, all the ancestors were also shocked. It's actually the Hunyuan divine body of destiny. How did he cultivate the Hunyuan divine body of destiny? The giant ape ancestor Bailu couldn't believe it. At this time, one after another huge Hunyuan destiny flew out of Yang Xiaoshan's body. 15 Hunyuan destiny hung in the sky, and the power of Hunyuan fell like 15 huge rivers of heaven. Above the 9th level, Hunyuan destiny. 15 Hunyuan destiny. Elder Zhang Jingxi said in a trembling voice. At this time, he and the other ancestors finally understood why Yang Xiaoshan could cultivate the unprecedented Hunyuan destiny divine body. Then, the 15 Hongmeng holy fruits behind Yang Xiaoshan condensed and burst into purple gold light. "This is the Hongmeng holy fruit," a core disciple said in shock. Then, Yang Xiaoshan activated the power of all the divine veins. One by one, the divine veins awakened in turn, and the divine power of the 1296 mutated divine veins roared violently, shaking the heaven and earth, and thunder filled the sky. Chapter 877. A shocking figure appeared among the outer disciples. 15 Hongmeng holy fruits. 1299 mutant divine veins. Yang Xiaoshan has opened up all the divine veins in his body. The Black Phoenix ancestor, who had long been eyeing Yang Xiaoshan, was so excited that he trembled all over. His eyes were shining, and he stared at Yang Xiaoshan. His big chest was heaving. Even Xiaoming, the calm Kangsu Supreme, was full of horror. Whether it was 15 mixed primordial fates, 15 Hongmeng holy fruits, or 1296 mutant divine veins, they were all heaven-defying things. All 15. This. What kind of monster is this? The 9-eyed demon tiger ancestor was also so excited that he was incoherent. The giant ape ancestor, the shocking sword sect ancestor and other ancestors were also stunned. They also cultivated all the way. Back then, why didn't they want to cultivate the mixed primordial fate? Why didn't they want to cultivate the Hangmeng holy fruit? And why didn't they want to open up all the divine veins? But no matter which one, it is harder than ascending to heaven. However, these legendary things that are harder than ascending to heaven and defying heaven are now all in front of them. They came here today just to see what other talents Yang Xiaoshan had, what other amazing talents he had, and now they saw it. Huang Yan, the 7th princess of the eternal divine kingdom, who had been paying attention to Yang Xiaoshan, was also stunned when she saw the 15 mixed primordial fates, the 15 primordial holy fruits, and the 1296 mutant divine veins. Can a person's talent really be so strong? Is this the reason why my godhead is restless? Huang Yan murmured. It should be the power of the 15 mixed primordial fates and the 15 primordial holy fruits in Yang Xiaoshan's body that caused her godhead to be restless. Lin Wei, the young patriarch of the Silver Sky Blood Demon, also had a dull look on his face. As the power of the 15 mixed primordial fates and the 15 primordial holy fruits swept violently, one mountain after another was shaking, and one mountain after another was shaking. Every corner and every space of the heaven and earth divine mansion was shaking violently. The airflow in the space seemed to be boiling. Many disciples, elders, supreme elders, ancestors and even ancestors of the heaven and earth divine mansion who were in seclusion and didn't know about this competition were all awakened. What kind of power is this? What kind of heaven-defying power can make the world tremble like this? All the disciples with amazing talents flew out from their retreat without hesitation. Hangwen, the most evil inner disciple, also woke up from the secret room and flew up into the air, looking towards the direction of the outer disciples' competition. Everyone saw the amazing Hunyuan light and the purple gold light of the Hangmeng holy fruit. It's the outer disciples' competition. An amazing figure has appeared among the outer disciples. Let's go. Hangwen instantly turned into a sword light, disappeared on the spot, and flew to the outer disciples' competition site. One by one, the disciples, elders, supreme elders, and ancestors rushed to the competition site from all directions like a tide. The power of the 15 Hunyuan fates and the 15 Hangmeng holy fruits even shocked Hanghuang City. The powerful beings in Hanghuang City all soared into the sky in shock. Which disciple of the heaven and earth divine palace has activated what power to cause such a strange movement of heaven and earth? Quickly check who it is. Check it for me. In the horror of everyone, Yang Xiaoshan suddenly punched out. At this moment, the power of the 15 mixed primordial destiny, the power of the 15 primordial holy fruits, all the power of the mutated divine veins, the power of the primordial divine body and the power of the mixed primordial destiny divine body roared out from Yang Xiaoshan's fist. The space was even more violently frustrated, as if it was about to collapse. Boom. Yang Xiaoshan's fist power instantly blasted Sun Yan's giant ape shaking the sky fist power. Sun Yan's giant ape shaking the sky fist power was like paper, and it was directly blown apart. Even if Sun Yan activated the power of his 3 top-level divine bodies, it was still paper. Even if Sun Yan was at the early stage of the 10th level of the Divine Lord, he couldn't resist it. Yang Xiaoshan's invincible punch instantly blasted in front of Sun Yan, and the terrifying fist power slammed into the defense of Sun Yan's giant ape shaking the sky divine power. There was a bang. All defenses were destroyed. The 1,000-foot-tall giant ape god burst apart in a wail. Sun Yan felt that he was hit by the Hunyuan giant mountain, the Hangmeng giant mountain, and the Xianli giant mountain at the same time. The divine armor on his body exploded, and the whole person was thrown backwards like a kite with a broken string. Sun Yan smashed through the restrictions of the ring fiercely, and fell on the ground outside the ring. Bang! With a sound, countless sand and dust exploded on the ground, and the whole mountain was violently shaken, as if it had been hit by a destructive blow. Sun Yan spurted blood, and looked at Yang Xiaoshan. His eyes were full of infinite fear, and then he fainted. On the ring, Yang Xiaoshan's eyes were cold, with 15 Hunyuan fates on his head and 15 Hangmeng holy fruits behind him. The to heaven defying divine body supported heavy divine light, just like the god of Hunyuan. and like the Hangmeng Lord who walked out of the Thunder World with a powerful aura on his body. Seeing this scene, everyone was deeply shocked. The world was silent. Only the wind was blowing. Even Lin Wei, who just felt that it was a shame to be compared with Yangtze Ocean, was also shocked. No one dared to speak. All of them stared at Yangtze Ocean's 15 mixed destiny and 15 primordial sacred fruits without blinking. 15 mixed destiny and 15 primordial sacred fruits. Such wonders of heaven and earth, the more you can see, the better. Deep in the void, after a long time, Zaoming, the supreme Kangsu, smiled bitterly and said, "This little guy's really surprising. Even I was scared." 15 mixed destiny and 15 primordial sacred fruits opened up all the mutant divine veins, and the primordial divine body, and mixed destiny divine body. These are things I dare not even think about. He thought about the amazing talents that Yangtze Ocean might not have revealed, but he never dared to think about the mixed destiny and primordial sacred fruit. Not to mention the 15 mixed destiny and 15 primordial sacred fruits. The other ancestors were also deeply shocked. This boy must be the first person in my divine domain since ancient times. The Black Phoenix ancestor suppressed the excitement in his heart and spoke. The giant ape ancestor Baliu and the shocking sword sect ancestor Wu Yin wanted to refute, but finally kept silent. It seems that this little guy may really win the first place among the outer disciples this time. Kangsu Supreme Zaoming said with a smile. After all, Yangtze Ocean defeated Sun Yan just now, and he had not yet used the 5 strongest sword fields. It should be the top 3, but not necessarily the first. The shocking sword sect ancestor Wu Yin shook his head and said that Khan Fei is already a half-step god king, and he has even killed a god king at the first level of the early stage. He admitted that Yangtze Ocean was against the sky and terrifying, but in his opinion, it was still difficult for Yangtze Ocean to win the first place. After all, everyone knew that Khan Fei had killed a god king at the first level of the early stage. Maybe this little guy has a third kind of god-defying body. Take Zen sword sect ancestor Liang Yao and said, "The third kind of god-defying body? How is that possible?" The giant ape ancestor Baliu immediately said, "He absolutely cannot have a third kind of god-defying body." Kangsu Supreme Zaoming stared at Yangtze Ocean. "The third kind of god-defying body?" Afterwards, Elder Zhang Jingxi announced in shock that Yangtze Ocean had won the competition. Not long after, the competitions of other disciples in the ring also ended. Just as Zhang Jingxi asked the disciples to come forward and draw lots to decide their opponents for the second competition, Yangtze Ocean said, "No need to bother, I will challenge all the outer disciples alone." Great. Chapter 878 One person challenges all outer sect disciples. I challenge all the outer disciples by myself. When Yangtze Ocean said this, everyone was stunned. Zhang Jingxi looked at Yangtze Ocean in astonishment. "You want to challenge all the outer disciples by yourself?" "Yes, I want to challenge all the outer disciples by myself." Yangtze Ocean flew up and landed on the ring, scanning all the outer disciples who participated in the competition. Hearing that Yangtze Ocean really wanted to challenge all the outer disciples by himself, everyone was shocked. He is crazy. Challenge all the outer disciples by himself. There are thousands of outer disciples who have signed up for the competition. Someone was shocked and thought that Yangtze Ocean was simply crazy. Even Dongfang Ao, who was shocked by Yangtze Ocean's 15 Hunyuan Xianming and 15 Hangmeng Shengguo just now, looked at Yangtze Ocean in surprise. This is too crazy. No disciple has ever dared to say that he wants to challenge all the outer disciples by himself. There has never been such a thing since the establishment of the Xiandi Shenfu. You should know that those who sign up for the outer disciples competition are almost all above the 10th level of the Divine Lord, and some are even half-step Divine Kings. For example, Khan Fei is so powerful that he can kill the early stage of the first level of the Divine King. Now Yangtze Ocean is going to challenge thousands of outer disciples of the 10th level of the Lord God alone. Even Lin Wei thought Yangtze Ocean was crazy, but after being surprised, Lin Wei's eyes were full of excitement. Yangtze Ocean was simply too proud to challenge thousands of outer disciples alone. Yangtze Ocean was doomed. when thousands of people fought, even if Yang Xiaoshan was accidentally killed, the high-level officials of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace would not be able to say anything. After all, it was Yang Xiaoshan who proposed it. Deep in the void, Xiaoming, the supreme Kangsu, couldn't help but smile bitterly. This kid. Should he say that Yang Xiaoshan was domineering, or that Yang Xiaoshan was arrogant? Yang Xiaoshan was strong, abnormally strong. He had never seen such a perverted disciple, but no matter how strong he was, a Lord God of the first level couldn't challenge thousands of Lord God of the 10th level. He was really having a headache. At this time, he received a letter from the elder Zhang Jingxi asking for instructions, asking him whether he agreed or not. Yang Xiaoshan wanted to challenge all the outer disciples alone, so he must report to Xiaoming. After all, Yang Xiaoshan was not an ordinary outer disciple. The ancestor of the giant ape, Bailu, said, Yang Xiaoshan has a monstrous talent, but he lacks tempering. It would be good to let thousands of outer disciples teach him a lesson. He undoubtedly agreed to the request for Yang Xiaoshan to challenge thousands of outer disciples. The ancestor of the Jingxian sword sect, Wu Yin, also said, Brother Bailu, and I have the same idea. It is not a bad thing to let Yang Xiaoshan experience some setbacks. Other ancestors also spoke up. Some agreed, and some disagreed. Xiaoming, the supreme Kangsu, hesitated for a moment, and then replied to the elder Zhang Jingxi. Zhang Jingxi opened the reply letter from the Lord of the House Xiaoming, and saw only 2 words on the content, agree. Agree. Zhang Jingxi's heart trembled, and then he glanced at the thousands of outer disciples, and finally his eyes fell on Yang Xiaoshan. Okay, the Heaven and Earth Divine House agrees that you challenged thousands of outer disciples alone. When Zhang Jingxi finished speaking, everyone at the scene was silent. The disciples and elders who rushed out of the secret room and rushed over all looked dazed. Hang Guan, the first inner disciple, also looked at Yang Xiaoshan in astonishment. Challenged thousands of outer disciples alone. When Lin Wei heard Zhang Jingxi agree, he looked ferocious and made a killing gesture to Qian Fei and the outer disciples he had bribed. Qian Fei and the outer disciples understood Lin Wei's meaning and rushed to the ring. For a time, thousands of outer disciples of the 10th level of the Lord of God surrounded Yang Xiaoshan tightly, and almost everyone stared at Yang Xiaoshan with a bloody look. These outer disciples were all talented and arrogant. On weekdays, they always thought highly of themselves. Yang Xiaoshan, a first-level Lord of God, actually wanted to challenge all of them. They had never been so despised and ignored before. In the crowd, Huang Yan, the 7th princess of the Eternal God Kingdom, tightened her heart again. And Han Feng in the crowd also stared at Yang Xiaoshan closely. He always felt that there was a familiar power in Yang Xiaoshan's body. I don't know if Yang Xiaoshan will use it later. If he uses it, he will know what power it is. Everyone stared at the ring closely. However, all the outer disciples surrounded Yang Xiaoshan, but no one took the initiative to attack. In the silence, Qian Fei, who was a half-step god king, said, since Yang Xiaoshan wants to challenge all of us, let's not hide it. Everyone, go all out. Today, we will defeat Yang Xiaoshan, this genius who defies the heavens. At this point, Qian Fei had a magic sword in his hand. When this magic sword was summoned, the aura from the invincible sword ancestor of the prehistoric world filled the world. The sword of the sword ancestor of the prehistoric world. Seeing the sword in Qian Fei's hand, many old ancestors who rushed over were shocked. The sword ancestor of the 100 battles was one of the most powerful sword ancestors even in the prehistoric world. Then, Qian Fei's sword energy surged, and he saw that his sword energy condensed into a world of swords. In this world of swords, one after another of the shadows of the sword gods condensed, a total of 100 shadows of the sword gods. The aura of the 100 sword gods filled the air, suffocating all the outer disciples on the ring. Even the inner disciples of the first level of the God King around the ring were shocked and retreated. 100 battle sword art. 100 sword god bodies. Qian Fei's 100 battle sword art has been perfected. Seeing that Qian Fei's 100 battle sword art has been perfected and condensed into 100 sword god bodies, even Wu Yin, the founder of the Jingxian sword sect, nodded and praised. This Qian Fei is worthy of being the first in the 3 outer sects. In the outer sect disciples competition of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace, Qian Fei has won the first place for 3 consecutive times. Seeing that Qian Fei activated the 100 battle sword dart of the primordial sword ancestor, as soon as he made a move, the other disciples did not hide it. Everyone activated the power of the divine body, and everyone activated the strongest technique they practiced. Everyone activated the power of the divine veins. The peak disciple of the late 10th level of the divine lord who cultivated the law even activated all the laws. For a time, the power of thousands of outer sect disciples was like an endless sea, flooding the 4 directions of heaven and earth. The power of thousands of outer sect disciples gathered together, which would be invincible. How terrifying. Even many god kings changed their faces and retreated again and again. Under the impact of thousands of outer disciples, Yangtze Ocean was like a small boat in the waves, ready to be blown away at any time. Yangtze Ocean's blue robe was blown by the wind, and he glanced at the thousands of outer disciples, and once again activated the power of Hunyo and Xianming and Hangmeng Shenguo. 15 Hunyo and Xianmings once again hung in the sky. 15 Hangmeng Shenguos gathered behind Yangtze Ocean again. Endless Hunyo and power fell like a river in the sky. Hangmeng Shenguo burst out with monstrous Hangmeng power. However, even if the power of Yangtze Ocean's 15 Hunyo and Xianmings and 15 Hangmeng Shenguos were added together, they still seemed so thin and weak in front of the power of thousands of outer disciples. Chapter 879 The Realm of the 7 Most Powerful Swords. Under the impact of the power of thousands of outer disciples, Yangtze Ocean, who was still like a small boat and could collapse at any time, activated the Hangmeng divine body again. When the 10,000 feet of Hangmeng God condensed and the Hangmeng world expanded, Yangtze Ocean's whole body strength increased greatly. However, it was still weak in front of the power of thousands of disciples. When the Hunyo and Xianming divine body was activated, the Hunyo and Destiny God condensed. Yangtze Ocean's power surged again. 15 Hunyo and Xianming, 15 Hangmeng holy fruits. The power of the to heaven defying divine bodies increased together, making Yangtze Ocean like a big stone, standing in front of the vast power of thousands of outer disciples. Although they had seen Yangtze Ocean's 15 Hunyo and Xianming, 15 Hangmeng holy fruits, and to heaven defying divine bodies just now, they were still shocked when they saw it again now. However, Yangtze Ocean's power at this moment was still far from enough in front of the vast power of thousands of outer disciples. It seems that Yangtze Ocean is going to activate the power of all the mutated divine veins and the 5 most powerful sword domains, said the giant ape ancestor Baliu, then shook his head. Even if he activates the power of the mutated divine veins and the 5 most powerful sword domains, it is still far from enough. But when he said this, he found that all the ancestors were looking at Yangtze Ocean in shock. Yangtze Ocean's whole body was filled with divine light again. A force from the beginning of heaven and earth rushed up into the sky, as if it would blast through heaven and earth. As the heaven and earth trembled, the third 10,000 feet god gathered behind Yangtze Ocean. What is this? The ancestor of the Jingxian sword sect, Wu Yin, looked at Yangtze Ocean in horror. Origin divine body. The supreme Kangsu Zaoming trembled. The origin of all things. The origin of all power. The Black Phoenix ancestor, the Taixuan sword sect ancestor and others were all shocked. The third kind of heaven defying divine body. This little guy actually really has the third kind of heaven defying divine body. With the activation of the origin divine body, Yangtze Ocean's power surged again, and it was like a small mountain in front of the power of thousands of outer disciples. Huang Yan, Dongfeng Ao, Hangfeng and others were all stunned when they looked at Yangtze Ocean. It is not uncommon to have 3 divine bodies, but to have 3 divine bodies that defy the heavens is more than the only one in the divine domain. While Lin Wei was shocked, his face was even uglier. However, just when his face was so ugly that he was about to spit fire, suddenly, Yangtze Ocean's whole body was shining again. This time, it was the pillar of time. One after another, the pillars of time soared into the sky. When they saw the fourth 10,000 feet of God condensing behind Yangtze Ocean, all the ancestors were shocked and lost their voices. Eternal divine body. Kangsu Supreme Zaoming was so excited that his hands trembled. Eternal divine body. It's the Master's eternal divine body. It's the Lord's eternal divine body. On the mountain, Countless disciples of the heavenly god palace were extremely excited, and some even had tears in their eyes. The Lord of heaven and earth is the highest existence in the divine domain. Seeing the eternal divine body of the Lord of heaven and earth reappear, everyone's excitement can be imagined. Even Lin Wei, Hang Feng, Huang Yan and others were stunned. No one expected that Yang Zai Ocean even had the eternal divine body of the Lord of heaven and earth. 4 kinds of heaven-defying divine bodies. How unprecedented. The 4 great gods gathered behind Yang Zai Ocean, emitting a vast and invincible power. If Yang Zai Ocean was just a small mountain before, now he is standing on the stage, a Taku divine mountain. A Taku divine mountain that cannot be shaken by the power of thousands of outer disciples. Everyone saw that when the power of thousands of outer disciples flooded in front of Yang Zai Ocean, they were blocked by the power of Yang Zai Ocean's 4 divine bodies, and could not get close to Yang Zai Ocean at all. Even Yang Zai Ocean could not get close to him 100 meters away. At this moment, no matter who saw Yang Zai Ocean's 4 heaven-defying divine bodies, they could not help but be shocked. Then, Yang Zai Ocean urged the power of all the mutated divine veins, and the power of the 4 divine bodies increased again. Endless lightning continued to pour out from Yang Zai Ocean's body. The amazing divine power filled the world. Even Qian Fei, who was a half-step God King, and claimed to be able to kill the first level of God King, could not hide his fear at this moment. Even Qian Fei was like this, let alone those outer disciples. Everyone, go all out. Qian Fei suppressed his fear and shouted, even if he has 4 great divine bodies, he is only the first level of the Lord of God. We have thousands of Lord of God 10th level masters, can't we be defeated by a Lord of God 1st level? Qian Fei suddenly swung his sword at Yang Zai Ocean. With his full power, the divine sword in his hand burst out with brilliant sword light, and the 100 sword gods behind him burst out with multiple sword powers at the same time, and blasted towards Yang Zai Ocean. Seeing this, the other disciples also suppressed their fear, and attacked one after another. Suddenly, the sword energy burst out, and the terrifying sword power set off a huge wave of air. Some of the peak disciples of the late 10th level of the Lord of God who cultivated the law of God also urged the power of the law when attacking. The whole arena was shaking violently, as if it could not withstand the power of thousands of outer disciples, and was about to collapse. The power of thousands of outer disciples burst out at the same time, and the power was so strong that the faces of all the disciples of the heaven and earth divine palace around changed drastically. Facing the terrifying power of thousands of outer disciples, Yang Zai Ocean showed no fear and once again used all his strength to activate the power of the 4 divine bodies, Hunyuan Xianming, and Hangmeng Holy Fruit. The 4 great divine bodies light surged, and infinite power roared out. The river of time, the prison of fate, the Hangmeng world, and the sea of origin all appeared in the world. The terrifying power of thousands of outer disciples bombarded the barrier formed by the 4 divine bodies. There was a loud explosion. The world lost all sounds. The terrifying airwave swept across. Countless rocks on the mountain peaks turned into powder. Many disciples retreated in shock. The river of time, the prison of fate, the Hangmeng world, and the sea of origin shook violently. But it was just a violent shake, and it was not broken at all. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. Yang Zai Ocean's 4 heaven-defying divine body barriers were so strong that thousands of outer disciples could not break them with one blow. If even Yang Zai Ocean's 4 divine body barriers could not be broken, how could they fight? Just as Qian Fei and the others were shocked, Yang Zai Ocean's sword energy surged all over his body. Wu Liang, Tailong, Mingai, Kangshan, and Shadow's 5 most powerful sword realms appeared. Immediately after Shadow's most powerful sword realm, Qian Fei's most powerful sword realm appeared. 6 most powerful sword realms. Everyone was stunned. When Xiaoming, the Supreme Kangsu, and the others were about to speak, suddenly, Yang Zai Ocean's sword energy surged again. Tangshan's most powerful sword realm appeared. 7 most powerful sword realms. When seeing Yang Zai Ocean's Tangshan most powerful sword realm appear, Hang Feng and the crowd was stunned, confused, and excited, shaking all over. At this moment, he finally knew why there was a familiar power in Yang Zai Ocean's body. It turned out that Yang Zai Ocean was his successor in the wilderness. It turned out to be his successor. 7 most powerful sword realms. Wu Yin, the ancestor of Jingshan sword sect, trembled. It turned out not to be the 5 most powerful sword realms. But at this time, Zaoming, the supreme Kangsu, and the others saw that Yangzai Ocean's sword energy surged again. The realm of the strongest sword of eternal night. I hope everyone can keep a normal mind while reading books. 10 years ago, I was reading a book and often waited until midnight. I could only sleep peacefully after finishing it. Having a new chapter to read every day was the happiest thing every day. I hope everyone can also regard reading this book as a happy thing every day. Chapter 880 Lin Wei, come out and fight me. When the Eternal Night Supreme Sword Domain appeared, everyone was stunned. 8 Supreme Sword Domains. The tongue of Wu Yin, the founder of the Jingshan sword sect, was stiff. 8 Supreme Sword Domains. Not 5, nor 7, but 8. In the crowd, Lin Wei stared at the 8 Supreme Sword Domains around Yangzai Ocean, his face pale, and he could even be said to be like a dead person. He was known as the first genius of the Silver Sky Blood Demon clan, the pride of the God Realm, and the most gifted sword genius in the history of the God Realm. He had cultivated for less than 20,000 years, but he had cultivated 9 Supreme Sword Domains. But what about Yangzai Ocean? He was only in the God Lord realm, and had only cultivated for a few decades, but he already had 8 Supreme Sword Domains. Why? He suddenly felt that his sword talent, which he had always been proud of, was trampled underfoot. However, the only thing that made him feel better now was that he had the Chaos Godhead. He had 9 Supreme Sword Domains, while Yangzai Ocean only had 8. Just as Lin Wei was comforting himself in his heart, suddenly, Yangzai Ocean's sword energy surged again. The beast swallowing sword domain appeared. 9 Supreme Sword Domains. The power of the 9 Supreme Sword Domains merged, the sword energy stirred the wind and clouds, the sky and the earth changed color, and the terrifying sword power seemed to blast through the sky. The light of the 9 Supreme Sword Domains was so bright that everyone felt blinded. Everyone was stunned. 9 kinds? All the disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace looked at Lin Wei at the same time. Lin Wei, who originally thought that he had 9 Supreme Sword Domains and Yangzai Ocean only had 8 kinds, felt as if his heart was trampled by thousands of horses at this moment. His face was completely pale and bloodless. He felt that all his strength had been drained away, and he couldn't even stand up. Yangzai Ocean swung the magic sword in his hand. The 9 Supreme Sword Domains, the 4 10,000-foot gods, all the mixed primordial destiny, the primordial holy fruit, and the mutated divine veins burst out with flood-like light and power. The world trembled. The 9 strongest sword domains passed through, and all the outer disciples' sword energy was completely wiped out, and all the fist force that hit Yangzai Ocean was completely disintegrated. The law that was said to be extremely tough, when it came to Yangzai Ocean, it broke into pieces, like broken crisp noodles. One outer disciple after another was blown away. One after another, the divine armor was blasted into countless pieces by the sword energy. Qian Fei, the first outer disciple who was said to be able to kill the first level of the Divine King, was also blasted into the air. The hundreds of sword gods behind him whimpered and exploded into fragmented sword energy. The thousands of outer disciples who had just attacked Yangzai Ocean, no one stood on the ring. Yangzai Ocean's power blasted out of the ring, and blasted towards the opposite mountain. These mountains had been tempered by the strong men of the Divine Palace for countless years, but even so, they were still shaken by the blast. When Yangzai Ocean's power dissipated, everyone looked over and saw that all the outer disciples on the ring were lying on the ground, unconscious. Qian Fei, the number 1 in the outer sect, was covered in blood, and his flesh and blood were all shattered. His divine veins and anshan had been shattered by Yangzai Ocean's power. Even if he didn't die, he became a cripple. Seeing this, everyone took a breath. With one sword, thousands of outer sect disciples were all blown out of the ring, and even Qian Fei was seriously injured, wanting to die. The key is that almost all of these outer sect disciples are strong men above the 10th level of the Lord of God. 9 Supreme Sword Domains. Deep in the void, after a long time, Zaoming, the Supreme Kangsu, slowly said, 4 heaven-defying divine bodies, 9 Supreme Sword Domains. One sword swept across and was invincible. Not to mention the disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace, Even the Black Phoenix ancestor, the Nine-Eyed Demon Tiger ancestor and others were also in a state of shock and could not calm down for a long time. Invincible in all domains. At this moment, suddenly, a voice sounded from the side of Xiaoming, Wu Yin, Bai Liu and others. I saw that Xiaoming, Wu Yin, Bai Liu and others had a tall middle-aged man beside them. Seeing this middle-aged man, Xiaoming, Wu Yin, Bai Liu and other ancestors were all shocked and bowed respectfully. Master of the palace. The person who came was the Lord of Heaven and Earth, who was in seclusion in the deepest space of the Heaven and Earth palace. The Lord of Heaven and Earth nodded to everyone, then turned to look at Yang Ocean and smiled. I sensed the power of the eternal divine body and rushed over. He looked at the four great gods behind Yang Ocean and sighed with relief. It is a blessing for my divine domain that such a peerless genius has emerged. The Hangmeng divine body he had been waiting for was finally born. Yang Ocean stood on the ring. The four great gods were as powerful as a prison, and the world was silent. After a long time, Elder Zhang Jingxi came to his senses and announced that Yang Ocean won the first place in this outer disciple competition. Since Xiaoming said that if Yang Ocean won the first place, the reward would be doubled, so Zhang Jingxi personally distributed 4 million-year-old divine medicines to Yang Ocean. Zhang Jingxi looked at Yang Ocean with a complicated expression. Since the establishment of the Divine Palace of Heaven and Earth, there has been an outer disciple competition every 10 years. He has presided over more than 1,000 outer disciple competitions, but this outer disciple competition will be unforgettable for him. After Yang Ocean received the reward from Zhang Jingxi, he suddenly said to Zhang Jingxi, since I have won the first place in the outer sect, I'm now qualified to challenge the inner disciples, right? At this point, Yang Ocean turned around and suddenly pointed his sword at the pale-faced Lin Wei in the crowd. Lin Wei, come out and fight me. Come out, fight me. Yang Ocean's words, like thunder from the sky, resounded throughout the competition square. Everyone was shocked. Zhang Jingxi was stunned. Yang Ocean actually wanted to challenge Lin Wei, who was at the peak of the late 4th level of the Divine King. Not only Zhang Jingxi was stunned, but Huang Yan, Dong Fangao, Han Feng and all the disciples were also stunned. This is too crazy. A disciple in the crowd couldn't help but mutter. The 1st level of the Divine Lord challenges the 4th level of the Divine King. In the void, the Lord of Heaven and Earth looked at Lin Wei. The Supreme Kangxu Xiaoming hurriedly said, Master, that young man is called Lin Wei, the young patriarch of the Silver Sky Blood Demon Clan, and possesses the Chaos Godhead. Oh, Chaos Godhead. The Lord of Heaven and Earth was also moved. Yes, this Lin Wei has amazing talent. Like Yang Ocean, he has cultivated the 9 strongest sword realms and 4 strongest dark divine bodies. Xiaoming said again, and then said which kind of divine bodies Lin Wei's 4 dark divine bodies were. Although Lin Wei's 4 dark divine bodies were not heaven-defying divine bodies, they were all legendary divine bodies, and were only 1 point weaker than Yang Ocean's heaven-defying divine body. After listening to this, the Lord of Heaven and Earth looked at Yang Ocean, who was full of fighting spirit, and pondered, let them fight. He also wanted to see where Yang Ocean's talent limit was, and where he had the confidence to challenge Lin Wei. At this time, Lin Wei in the crowd heard Yang Ocean's challenge, and his eyes shot out a strong murderous intent. He immediately stood up and landed in front of Yang Ocean. Chapter 881, The Law of Chaos of the Weak Chicken. Yang Ocean, I didn't expect you to dare to challenge me. Lin Wei's face was ferocious. When Yang Ocean killed so many disciples of the Silver Sky Blood Demon Clan in the secret realm, Lin Wei had a murderous intention towards Yang Ocean, but now, he has more than just a murderous intention towards Yang Ocean. His hatred for Yang Ocean is stronger than the murderous intention. 2 years ago, I said that I would chop off your head and feed it to the dogs. Yang Ocean said, chop off your head and feed it to the dogs. All the disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace had strange faces. Even the Elder Zhang Jingxi had a strange face. Lin Wei laughed loudly, a laugh of extreme anger. Okay. I want to see how you, a 1st level God Lord, chop off my head and feed it to the dogs. Lin Wei's whole body was full of murderous intent, and the power of the God King realm was frantically urged. An extremely powerful force continued to surge from his body, and then, Layer after layer of dark divine light continued to rise from his body. It was Lin Wei who activated the power of his dark divine body. And he activated his 4 dark divine bodies at once. Obviously, he was completely furious and no longer reserved his strength. He wanted to torture Yang Zai Ocean to death. Under Lin Wei's full urging, the power of his 4 dark divine bodies was like 4 dark seas, constantly surging, trying to submerge the entire mountain. The sky, which was just clear, fell into darkness. Lin Wei held the blood demon sword in his hand, and the sword energy in his body surged. One after another, the strongest sword domain was activated. The power of the 9 strongest sword domains suppressed many disciples of the inner sect of the God King realm and suffocated them. Even the disciples of the God King realm of the 5th and 6th levels were terrified. Lin Wei's aura was too strong. Although he was only at the peak of the late 4th level of the God King, with the power of his 4 legendary divine bodies and the 9 strongest sword domains, his aura was so strong that it had already overwhelmed the 5th and even 6th levels of the God King. And this was the power of Lin Wei without activating the Chaos Godhead. Lin Wei stood there, like a demon god walking out of the darkness, his eyes glowing with blood red light. Yang Zai Ocean, although your talent is amazing, it does not mean that you are the only one with amazing talent. Today, I will let you see what amazing talent is. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge law flew out of his body. This law was actually 1 mile in diameter. Like a tree that can support the sky, it stood between heaven and earth. It was branded with chaos runes, and the chaos energy swept across heaven and earth. The space was shaking. Chaos energy. This is the law of chaos, an unprecedented law of chaos. Lin Wei not only cultivated the chaos godhead, but also cultivated the law of chaos. All the disciples and elders of the heaven and earth divine palace were extremely shocked. The law of chaos, like the chaos godhead, had never appeared in the divine realm before. And now, Lin Wei cultivated the law of chaos, which made everyone excited and shocked. The ancestor of the giant ape, Baliu, could not help but get excited. Chaos law. Lin Wei is indeed a genius of my divine domain. First the chaos godhead, now the chaos law. Great. Lin Wei is indeed a genius of my divine domain. The ancestor of the heavenly sword sect, Wu Yin, was also very excited. Even the supreme Kangsu Zaoming was surprised to see Lin Wei's chaos law. The Lord of Heaven and Earth looked at Lin Wei's chaos law and nodded in praise. I didn't expect that Lin Wei not only cultivated the chaos godhead, but also cultivated the chaos law. Very good. But I don't know how many chaos laws he cultivated. As if to confirm the words of the Lord of Heaven and Earth, one chaos law after another flew out of Lin Wei's body. Soon, it reached 1 million. 1 million chaos laws, spewing chaos ki. Chaos ki was like a violent sea, ravaging the world. Many disciples of the divine domain of heaven and earth were very rare to be able to cultivate 1 million laws, but Lin Wei's chaos laws continued to fly out. Finally, 2 million. 2 million chaos laws flew out. 2 million chaos laws were like chaos dragons entwined around his body, covering the sky and the sun, overwhelming the heavens. The ring vibrated and began to crack. This ring was extremely hard and had withstood the power of the outer disciples for countless years without being damaged. Now, it could not withstand the power of Lin Wei's chaos laws and began to crack. Lin Wei stood there like a dark chaos god. 2 million chaos laws. The disciples of the heaven and earth divine palace looked at the chaos laws all over the sky and the ground in horror. 1 million chaos laws were already amazing, let alone 2 million chaos laws. The power of 2 million chaos laws was more than twice that of 1 million laws. 2 million chaos laws. The ancestors were also shocked. The Lord of Heaven and Earth looked at Lin Wei's 2 million chaos laws and had to admit that Lin Wei was very talented. Looking at the 2 million chaos laws that covered the heavens around Lin Wei, Huang Yan, the 7th princess of the ancient divine kingdom, Han Feng and others could not help but show worry on their faces. Yang Zai Ocean is strong, but Lin Wei has 2 million chaos laws. Even if Yang Zai Ocean has 4 heaven-defying divine bodies, 9 extremely powerful sword fields, 15 primordial destinies and 15 primordial holy fruits, and has opened up all the mutated divine veins, he can't stop Lin Wei at this moment. After all, the realm difference between Yang Zai Ocean and Lin Wei is too big. In this battle, will Yang Zai Ocean win, or will Lin Wei win? Lin Wei has cultivated 2 million chaos laws. Yang Zai Ocean will definitely lose. The realm difference is too big. The disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace discussed. Originally, everyone thought that Yang Zai Ocean could still fight with Lin Wei, but now seeing Lin Wei's 2 million chaos laws, everyone shook their heads. Lin Wei felt the power of chaos around him, and looked down at Yang Zai Ocean. Yang Zai Ocean, you didn't expect that I have cultivated the chaos law, and it is 2 million chaos laws. Today, even if I don't use the chaos godhead, I can easily crush you to death. Yang Zai Ocean took a look at Lin Wei's chaos law that overwhelmed the heavens, and said calmly, I really didn't expect that your chaos law was so weak. I didn't expect that there is such a weak chaos law in the world. Do you really think that such a weak chaos law is invincible? As soon as Yang Zai Ocean said this, everyone was in an uproar. Zhao Ming, the supreme Kangsu, was also speechless. Lin Wei's chaos law was so powerful and invincible, but Yang Zai Ocean said it was weak. The Lord of Heaven and Earth smiled. He really liked this little guy a little. Lin Wei was furious when he heard this, and suddenly swung his sword at Yang Zai Ocean. Okay. Today I will use the weak chaos law you mentioned to kill you. Under his full force, the 9 strongest sword fields, 2 million chaos laws, 4 legendary divine bodies, and the power of the 4th late stage of the Divine King roared out from his divine sword, and blasted towards Yang Zai Ocean with unmatched momentum. The space vibrated abnormally. Looking at the power of Lin Wei's sword, Yang Zai Ocean said, Today, I will show you what the chaos law is. Chapter 882 My chaos godhead is the most powerful and invincible. What is the chaos law? Hearing Yang Zai Ocean's words, Lin Wei seemed to have heard a big joke. He was about to speak, but suddenly, the world trembled violently, and the airflow in the space was boiling. A terrifying breath and power rushed up from Yang Zai Ocean's body. I saw a chaos law like a giant pillar flying out of Yang Zai Ocean's body. When this chaos law flew out of Yang Zai Ocean's body, the world flickered for a moment, and Lin Wei's 2 million chaos laws were actually trembling. This chaos law ejected endless chaos ki. On the chaos law, dense chaos runes were engraved. The chaos ki of Lin Wei's chaos law was extremely thin compared to the chaos ki of Yang Zai Ocean's chaos law. Although Lin Wei's chaos law also had chaos runes, the chaos runes were sparse, like a few hairs on a bald head, while the chaos runes on Yang Zai Ocean's chaos law were more than just hair. They were simply dense forests. Yang Zai Ocean's chaos law stands between heaven and earth, and it is more than invincible in the world. Everyone was stunned when they saw Yang Zai Ocean's chaos law. This is such a big chaos law. What kind of chaos law is this? How can it be so huge? How can a divine lord of the 1st level have a law? Can't a divine lord of the late 10th level cultivate a law? Even the ancestors who were just shocked by Lin Wei's chaos law were dumbfounded. Lin Wei's chaos law is very big, but compared with Yang Zai Ocean's current chaos law, it is really weak. So small. So small. Everyone looked at Lin Wei's bottom at the same time. The Lord of Heaven and Earth looked at Yang Zai Ocean's chaos law, and was also stunned. He was also a person who had seen the chaos law, but he had never seen such a huge one. Is this still a chaos law? Could it be? When the Lord of Heaven and Earth thought of this, the heart that had been silent for countless years finally began to surge with long-lost throbbing and excitement. Yang Zai Ocean, even if you have cultivated the chaos law, it doesn't matter, it's just one. Lin Wei's face was ferocious and crazy. He increased his strength again, and the sword in his hand shot out with sword light, as if to pierce the sky. Just as he was madly increasing his strength, he saw that one chaos law after another kept flying out of Yang Zai Ocean's body, and each chaos law was as huge as the first one. Each one was like a giant pillar like the first one. Each one ejected endless chaos ki. The chaos runes of each one were like a dense forest. Just like a rocket launcher, in the blink of an eye, 1.2 million Chaos King laws soared into the sky. The power of 1.2 million Chaos King laws set off a terrifying sea of chaos. Under the power of Yang Zai Ocean's 1.2 million Chaos King laws, Lin Wei's 2 million Chaos laws actually bent like reeds. Yang Zai Ocean's eyes were cold, and the Heaven and Earth Divine Sword appeared in his hand. The sword energy in his body surged. After the 9 sword domains, another sword domain appeared, the heaven and earth sword domain. The power of the 10 sword domains merged. When everyone was staring at Yang Ocean's heaven and earth divine sword, Yang Ocean swung the heaven and earth divine sword in his hand. The 10 sword domains, the 4 divine bodies, and all the power of the Chaos King's laws roared out. Boom. The sky and the earth seemed to be blasted through, and a black hole appeared. The power of Lin Wei's 9 sword domains was blasted. 2 million chaos laws were all broken. That's right, it was broken. Still crispy noodles. The power of the 4 legendary divine bodies disappeared. Lin Wei looked at the overwhelming chaos power and sword power, his face pale. In panic, he summoned one shield after another, and at the same time, covered his body with a prehistoric divine armor. This prehistoric divine armor was covered with divine runes, and the divine runes condensed into a blood demon. It was a divine armor refined by the ancestor of their ancient blood demon clan. Boom. All the dozens of divine shields summoned by Lin Wei were blown away and turned into countless pieces. The power of chaos and the power of sword continued to bombard Lin Wei. Even though Lin Wei frantically urged the divine armor, the whole person was still blown out of the ring and fell heavily on the ground outside the ring. Lin Wei spurted blood from his mouth. Many disciples who supported Lin Wei looked pale as they watched Lin Wei fall outside the ring. Defeated. Lin Wei, who had cultivated 2 million chaos laws, still lost to Yang Ocean, a first level god master. However, looking at Yang Ocean's Tyrannosaurus Rex-like chaos law, and then looking at Lin Wei's, everyone really felt weak. Chaos law, is this your ultimate talent? In the crowd, Huang Yan looked at Yang Ocean, and muttered to herself. The 10 most powerful sword fields. Wu Yin, the founder of the Jingshan sword sect, looked at Yang Ocean's sword field and chaos law, shocked, surprised, and unbelievable. What is this? Zhao Ming, the supreme Kangsu, looked at the heaven and earth sword in Yang Ocean's hand excitedly. Yes, the heaven and earth divine sword. The Lord of Heaven and Earth laughed loudly. This is the heaven and earth divine sword of my master. It seems that I'm not alone in my path. You have a junior brother. You have a junior brother. The blue blood supreme Zhao Ming was shocked. It is indeed the heaven and earth divine sword. Congratulations, Lord of the Palace. The ancestors were excited and bowed to the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Previously, the Black Phoenix ancestor, who was vying to accept Yang Ocean as a disciple, no longer dared to have this idea at this moment. Even if Yang Ocean did not have the heaven and earth divine sword, she would not dare to have this idea. Yang Ocean's talent has surpassed her cognition, and she is not qualified to accept Yang Ocean as a disciple. Good. The Lord of Heaven and Earth laughed heartily in the face of the congratulations of the ancestors. He looked at Yang Ocean on the ring. At this moment, he was only satisfied, except for satisfaction, and satisfaction. He was only at the first level of the Lord of God, and he cultivated the 10 most powerful sword fields. He was only at the first level of the Lord of God, and he cultivated the law, and it was the legendary law of chaos. He was only at the first level of the Lord of God, and he cultivated the 4 heaven-defying divine bodies. It would be strange if he was not satisfied with such a disciple. When the time comes for the competition among the various domains, his divine domain will surely amaze the heavens. Just when everyone was shocked by Yang Ocean's law of chaos, Lin Wei, who was blown out of the ring, struggled to stand up. His eyes were bloodshot, full of murderous intent, anger, and hatred, staring at Yang Ocean. I haven't lost yet. Yang Ocean, I was just careless just now. You take my sword again. I don't believe that I, Lin Wei, the first genius of the Silver Sky Blood Demon Clan, the 4th level of the God King, will lose to you, the 1st level of the God Lord. Lin Wei almost roared at the end. At this point, he floated up, and the 4 legendary divine bodies and the law of chaos were activated again. Then, a huge godhead with a radius of more than 100 miles flew out. It was the chaotic blood godhead. Lin Wei's face was full of madness and hideousness. My chaotic godhead is the strongest and invincible. I'm the first genius of the Heaven and Earth God Palace and the God Domain. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 883. Such a huge chaos godhead. When Lin Wen's chaos godhead flew out, the chaos key and blood key gushed out like a surging sea, submerging one side of the world after another. Not only the competition peak, but also the surrounding peaks. From a distance, it was as if the world had turned into a chaotic sea of blood. And Lin Wen was the king of the Chaos Blood Sea, the demon lord of the Chaos Blood Sea. The godheads of everyone were almost all top grade godheads, only 1 mile in size. Now seeing that Lin Wen's chaos godhead was more than 100 miles in size, everyone was shocked. More than 100 miles in size. Lord Lin Wen's godhead is the largest godhead in our god realm. Not only the largest godhead in our god realm, it's also the most powerful godhead in our god realm. Some of the disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace who served under Lin Wen had fanatical eyes and were amazed. When Lin Wen was enjoying the powerful power brought by his Chaos Godhead, Yang Xiaoshan said calmly, "This Chaos Godhead, which is no different from a small insect, dares to claim to be the largest godhead in the god realm." Everyone was stunned. Lin Wen laughed angrily. "Yang Xiaoshan, I don't believe you really do that." Before he finished speaking, Yang Xiaoshan said, "You will see." As soon as Yang Xiaoshan finished speaking, the world suddenly shook violently. Even when Yang Xiaoshan just activated the power of 1.2 million chaos laws, the world did not shake so violently. It was as if something terrifying was coming out of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace. No, it was coming out of the entire Han continent. The entire Han continent was shaking violently, as if it was squeezed by something. Not only Han City, but all the strong men and old monsters in seclusion in the entire Han continent were awakened. Everyone was shocked and then terrified. The terrifying darkness surged out of Yang Xiaoshan. The chaos blood sea of Lin Wen's chaos godhead was instantly blasted open and scattered. In the horrified eyes of everyone, a huge dark object that was almost boundless flew out of Yang Xiaoshan's body. When this dark object flew out, the world seemed to collapse, and the entire Han continent was shaking. Everyone had never seen such a huge dark object. Lin Wen's chaos godhead was over 100 miles in radius, only as big as a mountain in the divine palace of heaven and earth. However, this dark object actually obscured countless peaks, countless mountain ranges, and countless palaces in the divine palace of heaven and earth. Even the surrounding Han City and other cities were all obscured. The divine palace of heaven and earth, Han City, and the surrounding cities were all plunged into endless darkness. The power of chaos was raging. The darkness was engulfing the world. Lin Wen, who was closest to Yang Xiaoshan, was almost suffocated by the impact of the chaos power. He widened his eyes as wide as he could, looking at the dark object with a look of horror. This is impossible. How is it possible? How can there be such a huge chaos godhead in this world? The disciples of the divine palace of heaven and earth were still terrified, and they were all shocked when they heard Lin Wen's words. Is this the chaos godhead? It's bigger than the divine palace of heaven and earth, and bigger than Han City? How could it be? Many disciples of the divine palace of heaven and earth still couldn't believe it. Not only did the disciples of the heaven and earth divine palace not believe it, but even the ancestors were trembling with fear, staring at Yang Xiaoshan's chaotic godhead, trying to confirm whether what they saw was true. Kangsu Supreme Zaoming was stunned. Black Phoenix ancestor was stunned. Even the Lord of Heaven and Earth was stunned. Although he had guessed about Yang Xiaoshan's godhead just now, when he really saw Yang Xiaoshan's godhead, he still found that it was far beyond his imagination. Is this true? Wu Yin, the ancestor of the Jingshan sword sect, stuttered. Even if he saw it with his own eyes, it was still hard to believe that what he saw was true. What does it mean to be bigger than the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace and the Han City? The Heaven and Earth Divine Palace is composed of hundreds of thousands of sacred mountains. In addition to hundreds of thousands of sacred mountains, there are many forbidden areas, and even a sea and a huge primeval forest. The size of the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace is comparable to a small continent. Han City is not smaller than the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace. If it is larger than the Heaven and Earth Divine Palace and Han City, then isn't it larger than the two small continents put together? It's no wonder that Wu Yin, the founder of the heaven-shaking sword ancestor, and others didn't believe it. The Lord of Heaven and Earth sighed. There are always some things in this world that are beyond our understanding. Just because we don't understand them doesn't mean they don't exist. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was shocked by Yang Xiaoshen's chaos godhead, and Huang Yan was even more shocked. At this moment, she finally understood what kind of power in Yang Xiaoshen's body caused her godhead to be so agitated. His godhead is the Chaos Dark godhead. It's really Chaos Dark. She was excited and murmured to herself, her eyes actually filled with tears. So it was him. At this moment, she knew who was in the dark forest. So it was really a little bug. Someone murmured. It was undoubtedly referring to Lin Wei's chaos godhead was really a little bug. Compared with Yang Xiaoshen's godhead, Lin Wei's chaos godhead and the little bug were really no different. At this moment, Yang Xiaoshen's eyes were cold, and he swung the heaven and earth divine sword in his hand again. The power of the dark godhead of the King of Chaos, the power of 1.2 million King of Chaos laws, and the power of the 10 strongest sword domains burst out. But the sea of blood and chaos around Lin Wei was instantly cut apart, like a piece of rag being split apart. Seeing Yang Xiaoshen's destructive power coming to kill him, Lin Wei was terrified and frantically activated the power of the Godhead of Chaos, the Law of Chaos, the 9 strongest sword domains, and the power of the 4 legendary divine bodies. But no matter how frantically he activated the power of the Godhead of Chaos and the Law of Chaos, it was useless, and he could not stop Yang Xiaoshen's absolute power. Seeing that Lin Wei was about to be killed by Yang Xiaoshen's sword, at this moment, a majestic voice suddenly sounded from heaven and earth. Okay, this battle, the winner is already decided. There was no sword energy or fist power. The power of chaos and the power of sword that Yang Xiaoshen blasted in front of Lin Wei dissipated between heaven and earth. When everyone was surprised, a group of people walked out from the depths of the void. But what surprised everyone was that the person walking in the front was not Xiaoming, the supreme Kangsu. Elder Zhang Jingzi trembled all over when he saw the middle-aged man walking in front. He immediately bowed to the ground and said excitedly, "Greetings to His Majesty, the Lord." The ancestors called the Lord of Heaven and Earth as the Lord of the Palace, but others generally called the Lord of Heaven and Earth as His Majesty. Hearing that the person coming was the Lord of Heaven and Earth, all the disciples of the Heaven and Earth Palace were shocked and excited. They all bowed to the ground. "Greetings to His Majesty, the Lord." The shouting shook the space. Even the Princess of the Eternal Divine Kingdom, Huang Yan, and others all bowed excitedly. Yang Xiaoshen was shocked to hear that the person coming was the Lord of Heaven and Earth. He put away the Chaos Godhead and was about to salute with everyone, but was lifted up by the power of the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 884. Didn't Xiaoming say he wanted to accept me as his disciple? The Lord of Heaven and Earth came to Yang Xiaoshen and looked at him with full of admiration, satisfaction, and surprise. "I didn't expect that my Heaven and Earth sword would be obtained by someone. And I didn't expect that you not only cultivated the Heaven and Earth sword intention, but also cultivated the Heaven and Earth supreme sword domain. So, you have also comprehended the Heaven and Earth divine stele?" Yang Xiaoshen bowed and said respectfully, "Yes, Lord of the Mansion." "Good." The Lord of Heaven and Earth smiled, "But you have to change your words in the future." Yang Xiaoshen reacted and said respectfully, "Master." The Lord of Heaven and Earth heard this and laughed loudly, with great joy in his laughter. "Okay, I'm so lucky to have a disciple like you." Everyone had different feelings when they heard that the Lord of Heaven and Earth accepted Yang Xiaoshen as a disciple. Lin Wei, who was kneeling there, was jealous and hateful. "Everyone, get up." The Lord of Heaven and Earth was very happy and said to everyone. Everyone just got up. The Lord of Heaven and Earth smiled and pulled Yang Xiaoshen up, saying, "Good disciple, let's go with me to my cave. I have a gift for you." The figures of Yang Xiaoshen and the Lord of Heaven and Earth disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. Kangsu Supreme Xiaoming and a group of ancestors also broke through the air and left. In the end, only Lin Wei and a group of disciples of the Divine Palace of Heaven and Earth were left there. Lin Wei watched the Lord of Heaven and Earth holding Yang Xiaoshen, talking and laughing, with a friendly face, and then leaving without even looking at him. He couldn't help but clench his fists, jealous and resentful in his heart. He is a chaotic godhead and has cultivated 2 million chaotic laws. Before entering the divine palace of heaven and earth, he even fantasized that one day he would be valued by the Lord of heaven and earth and take charge of the divine palace of heaven and earth. But now, the Lord of heaven and earth didn't even look at him and directly treated him as a transparent existence. The more Lin Wei thought about it, the more he hated it. Hated Yang Zai Ocean. If it weren't for Yang Zai Ocean, all of this would have been his. Han Feng watched Yang Zai Ocean disappear, feeling relieved and happy. In the end, all the disciples left one after another. Elder Zhang Jingxi asked everyone to treat a group of outer disciples. He looked at Lin Wei, who was standing there with an uncertain face, and sighed in his heart. He guessed Lin Wei's thoughts to some extent. But this is fate. Lin Wei has the Chaos Godhead, which should have amazed the God Realm, but a more evil Yang Zai Ocean appeared. Soon, the news of the battle between Yang Zai Ocean and Lin Wei spread. The whole continent of Honghuan was shocked. Whether it was Yang Zai Ocean's complete defeat of Lin Wei, who was at the 4th level of God King, with the realm of the 1st level of God Lord, or Yang Zai Ocean's terrifying Chaos Godhead and terrifying Chaos Law, all made the strong men from all sides of the Honghuan continent boil. The 4 heaven-defying divine bodies, the realm of the 10 most powerful swords, even the Godhead and the Law are so terrifying. I heard that Yang Zai Ocean has inherited the inheritance of His Majesty the Lord. The Honghuan continent was talking about this battle everywhere. Yang Zai Ocean didn't know about the outside world's discussion. At this time, he was sitting in the cave of the Lord of Heaven and Earth. The gift from the Lord of Heaven and Earth was 100 mouthfuls of heavenly holy water. Heavenly holy water is extremely rare and hard to find even in the divine domain. 100 mouthfuls of heavenly holy water is a heavy gift. Yang Zai Ocean was in urgent need of heavenly holy water, so he accepted it without hesitation. Afterwards, the Lord of Heaven and Earth pulled Yang Zai Ocean aside and asked about Yang Zai Ocean's situation and the situation in the wilderness. Listening to Yang Zai Ocean talking about the situation in the wilderness, the Lord of Heaven and Earth sighed. The Lord of Heaven and Earth listened to Yang Zai Ocean talking about the situation in the wilderness, and occasionally asked the Lord of Heaven and Earth about some things, and the Lord of Heaven and Earth knew everything. A few days later, Yang Zai Ocean came out of the cave of the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Although it was only a few days, the Lord of Heaven and Earth gave Yang Zai Ocean careful guidance during these few days, which benefited Yang Zai Ocean a lot. After coming out of the cave of the Lord of Heaven and Earth, the Supreme Kangsu Zaoming rearranged a place for Yang Zai Ocean to practice, and asked Yang Zai Ocean to move the cave to the cave area of the ancestors, and to the mountain with the richest spiritual energy. Moreover, Yang Zai Ocean will enjoy the treatment of an ancestor in the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. Yang Zai Ocean is an outer disciple, but he enjoys the treatment of an ancestor. This is something that has never happened in the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. After learning about Yang Zai Ocean's treatment, Lin Wei directly bombed his cave. Although he also enjoyed different treatment, his treatment was only equal to that of the elders. Above the elders, there are the Supreme Elders, and above the Supreme Elders are the ancestors. Yang Zai Ocean's treatment is almost second only to the ancestors. Yang Zai Ocean, if it weren't for you, all this would be mine. Everything is because of you. Lin Wei roared. But then, Zaoming, the Supreme Kangsu, issued the will of the Lord of Heaven and Earth. 1 year later, Yang Zai Ocean's apprenticeship ceremony was held. After the apprenticeship ceremony, Yang Zai Ocean became the young master of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. When Lin Wei heard the news, he stared at his subordinates who reported to him with a terrifying look. Didn't you say that at least you need to be a God Emperor to become the young master of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion? Above the God Lord is the God King, and above the God King is the God Emperor. The subordinate didn't dare to look at Lin Wei, and mumbled. The Lord's explanation to the outside world is that Yang Zai Ocean possesses the Godhead of the King of Chaos, which is unprecedented, and can be broken. Godhead of the King of Chaos? Exclamation mark. Lin Wei was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood due to the injury caused by Yang Zai Ocean. Also, just now, the ancestor of the Jingshan Sword sect sent someone to ask the young clan leader if you are willing to worship him as a teacher. The subordinate hesitated and said. Lin Wei's eyes widened. Shouldn't the Supreme Kangsu Zaoming accept him as a disciple? How did it become the ancestor of the Jingshan Sword sect? Wu Yin. Although Wu Yin is the ancestor, in terms of status and position, he is naturally inferior to the supreme Kangsu Zaoming. After all, Zaoming is not only a disciple of the Lord of Heaven and Earth, but also the acting Lord of the Divine Palace of Heaven and Earth. Where is Zaoming? Didn't Zaoming say that he would accept me as a disciple? Lin Wei couldn't believe it. He is the godhead of chaos, and he has cultivated 2 million chaos laws, but Zaoming didn't accept him as a disciple. Lord Zaoming didn't say that. The subordinate lowered his head and his voice weakened. Lin Wei felt abandoned by the world. He was so talented, but Zaoming didn't accept him as a disciple. Why? Was it because of Yang Xiaoshan? Princess Huan Yan? What about Chen Zhangdong? Lin Wei took a deep breath and tried to suppress his anger. The Black Phoenix ancestor wants to accept Princess Huan Yan as a disciple. The Giant Ape ancestor wants to accept Chen Zhangdong as a disciple. And the Taixuan Sword Sect ancestor wants to accept Hang Feng as a disciple. The subordinate reported one by one. Dong Fangao wants to worship the Nine-Eyed Demon Tiger ancestor as his master. Hearing that even Hang Feng, Dong Fangao and others could worship the ancestor as their master, and he could only worship the ancestor as his master, Lin Wei's eyes were bloodshot, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, you will regret it. I, Lin Wei, will make you regret it one day." He swore. The apprenticeship ceremony, right? Yang Xiaoshan, I want to see if you can live to see the apprenticeship ceremony. Zaoming personally arranged a cave for Yang Xiaoshan and told him that if he had any problems in the future, he could come to him or directly to the master. Then he asked Yang Xiaoshan to prepare well for the apprenticeship ceremony in a year. Chapter 885 Meeting with Hang Feng. Just as Zaoming was about to leave, Yang Xiaoshan said, "Brother, I want to ask you something." Zaoming was surprised and said with a smile, "What do you want to ask?" "I'm in urgent need of a large amount of heavenly holy water recently. Do you know where to find it?" Yang Xiaoshan asked. "Heavenly holy water?" Zaoming was startled, then pondered and said, "I still have some, but not much. It's my personal collection, only about 60 or 70 bottles. If you want it, you can use it." Then he took out a jade bottle and gave it to Yang Xiaoshan. Yang Xiaoshan heard that it was Zaoming's personal collection, so he didn't want it and said, "Brother, no need." Zaoming smiled and said, "Brother, don't be embarrassed. Master gave you a gift. As a brother, I can't give you nothing. Just treat it as a gift." Then he said, "And I'll have something to trouble you in the future." Yang Xiaoshan hesitated a little when he heard it, then nodded and said, "Okay, thank you, brother." Then he accepted the heavenly holy water. Zaoming saw Yang Xiaoshan accept it and smiled. If you want a lot of heavenly Dao holy water, there are two places that have quite a lot of heavenly Dao holy water. One is Kaishan Academy, and the other is Yuanqi Dao Palace. Yang Xiaoshan was surprised and delighted. Kaishan Academy and Yuanqi Dao Palace were not unfamiliar to him. However, Kaishan Academy and Ashiandi Shenfu don't have a very good relationship. Zaoming shook his head and said, "It's difficult to get heavenly Dao holy water from them. As for Yuanqi Dao Palace, I don't know when it will appear next time." Although Duobao Supreme has the Origin Divine Pearl in his hand, this old man is very angry and regards the Origin Divine Pearl as his life. It's difficult for you to get the Origin Divine Pearl from him. Yang Xiaoshan nodded. Then, Yang Xiaoshan asked about the remaining 3-time Divine Tablets. Although Dong Fangao was asking, there was still no news. Zaoming, as the Lord of Xiandi Shenfu, might know. Hearing Yang Xiaoshan looking for the time monument, Zaoming said, "The Dean of Kaishan College, Chen King, has one, and there are 2 in the land of demon ancestors. One is in the burial cliff of the gods in the land of demon ancestors, and the other is in the Devil Transformation Pond in the land of demon ancestors. Both the burial cliff and the Devil Transformation Pond are extremely dangerous places, so you should not go there." Zaoming shook his head and said, "Although you have the 4 heaven-defying divine bodies and the chaos godhead, your elm is still too weak now. It is too dangerous to go to the burial cliff and the Devil Transformation Pond. Don't worry, brother. If I'm not sure, I will not go." Yang Xiaoshan said. Then, Zaoming said some more words to Yang Xiaoshan and left. After Zaoming left, Yang Xiaoshan said to himself, Burial Cliff, Devil Transformation Pond. In order to collect the time monuments and find the time god tree, he had to go to the burial cliff and the devil transformation pond in the land of demon ancestors no matter what. Before, Meng Bingsu said that she would see him again during the assessment of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, but now 2 years have passed, and Meng Bingsu still has not appeared. Did something unexpected happen? When he arrives at the demon ancestors land, he can ask about Meng Bingsu's news. Then, Yang Xiaoshan thought of Hei Yi. Hei Yi said last time that he had discovered the breath of the demon clan saint ancestor and left for a while, but he has been gone for so long and still hasn't come back. Yang Xiaoshan couldn't help but wonder. According to Uncle Ding, Hei Yi shouldn't be in trouble. Don't worry, Xiao Hei will be fine. Uncle Ding's voice sounded, it should be delayed by something else. Yang Xiaoshan hummed, Uncle Ding, are you sure about the burial god cliff and the demon transformation pool in the demon ancestors land? With my current strength, I'm not sure, but if you have enough heavenly Dao holy water for me to recover, there will be no problem in 2 years, Uncle Ding said. Yang Xiaoshan immediately gave half of the heavenly Dao holy water he got from the Lord of Heaven and Earth and Zaoming to Uncle Ding. As for the other half, he also needs to practice. And he has to keep some on him in case of emergency. After giving half of the heavenly Dao holy water to Uncle Ding, Yang Xiaoshan asked about the cave of his master Han Feng and walked towards Han Feng's cave. Knowing that Yang Xiaoshan was coming, Han Feng came out to greet him, very excited. Seeing Han Feng coming out of the cave, Yang Xiaoshan was also very excited looking at Han Feng in front of him. He had imagined the scene of meeting Han Feng countless times. Master. Yang Xiaoshan quickly came to Han Feng, bowed deeply, and called him. Han Feng looked at Yang Xiaoshan and excitedly held Yang Xiaoshan's arms. Well, I didn't expect that I could see my successor in the divine realm. He helped Yang Xiaoshan up. However, you are now the young master of the divine palace of heaven and earth, with a respected status. It is not appropriate to call me master. If it spreads to other people's ears, there will be a lot of gossip. After all, Yang Xiaoshan is now a disciple of the Lord of Heaven and Earth. If he calls him an inner disciple, a master, it will cause gossip. Yang Xiaoshan shook his head and said, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. You are my master. If it weren't for Han Feng, he wouldn't have practiced the ancient dragon art, nor would he have obtained Lord Ding. Along the way, although Yang Xiaoshan had many masters, he was most grateful to Han Feng. I didn't recognize you before because, Yang Xiaoshan explained. Han Feng smiled and said, I know, master understands. Earlier Yang Xiaoshan won the competition against Lin Wei. The Lord of Heaven and Earth and a group of ancestors were present, so Yang Xiaoshan naturally could not recognize and talk with you. Let's go, let's have a good drink together. Han Feng smiled heartily, then pulled Yang Xiaoshan into the cave, and said jokingly, in the future, as a master, I will need you to guide me in my cultivation. Yang Xiaoshan laughed, that won't do. You are now in the Divine King realm, and I'm only in the Divine Lord realm. How dare I guide you? The two laughed out loud. This drinking lasted for several days and nights. The two had a long conversation, and the more they talked, the more speculative they became. They talked about the wilderness to the divine realm, from the ancient dragon tactics to the Tangshan swordsmanship, from women to men, and from men to women. The two talked about everything. Hearing about Yang Xiaoshan's adventures along the way, Han Feng was amazed, but Yang Xiaoshan was also amazed by Han Feng's deeds along the way. This drinking made Yang Xiaoshan want to urinate, and he wanted to urinate several times. A few days later, when Yang Xiaoshan left, he didn't have anything good to give Han Feng, so he gave half of the magic medicine that won the first prize to Han Feng, and gave all the 105 tribulations heaven grade body pills he had to Han Feng. Han Feng was not surprised by the 2000-year-old magic medicines, but was surprised by the 5 tribulations heaven grade body pills. Even in the god realm, 4 tribulations heaven grade pills are extremely rare, not to mention 5 tribulations heaven grade. After learning that these body pills were refined by Yang Xiaoshan, Han Feng was even more surprised and relieved. However, he did not take the 2 magic medicines, but only took all the body pills. When master runs out of them, ask for them from you, his disciple. Han Feng joked. Okay. Yang Xiaoshan smiled and said, in the future, if master needs anything, tell me. If I don't have it, I'll go ask my master for it. It means the master of heaven and earth. Han Feng laughed. Chapter 886, Apprenticeship Ceremony. After returning from Han Feng cave, Yang Xiaoshan returned to his own cave and went into seclusion to refine the 4 million level divine medicines that won the first prize of the outer sect this time. This time, he not only had to break through the second level of the Lord of God in one fell swoop, but also had to condense the lore of the King of Chaos again. After breaking through the peak of the late first level of the Lord of God, his speed of refining the divine medicine increased again. In just over 2 months, he had refined a 1 million level divine medicine. Yang Xiaoshan finally sensed the barrier of the second level of the Lord of God. Without stopping, he continued to swallow the second divine medicine. Under the operation of his 3 major skills, the Ancient Dragon Art and the Destiny Divine Art, the rolling torrent of divine medicine power was constantly transformed into the divine power of the 2 Chaos King Godheads. Boom. The divine power blasted open the barrier of the second level of the Lord of God with an overwhelming force. Yang Xiaoshan successfully broke through the second level of the Lord of God, but he kept practicing and continued to refine the medicinal power of the divine medicine and began to approach the peak of the early second level of the Lord of God. After refining the second divine medicine, Yang Xiaoshan continued to refine the third and fourth. Finally, he refined all the 4 divine medicines he had obtained. And he also broke through to the middle stage of the second level of the Lord of God. Stop practicing. Yang Xiaoshan was somewhat speechless. After breaking through the second level of the Lord of God, the effect of the 10 million year divine medicine on him became less and less. After refining 4 10 million year divine medicines in succession, he finally broke through from the peak of the late stage of the first level of the Lord of God to the middle stage of the second level of the Lord of God. This improvement effect was really unsatisfactory. It seems that he still has to find a 20 million year divine medicine. Now there are still 2 months before the apprenticeship ceremony, so Yang Xiaoshan left the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion and planned to find an uninhabited place to condense the lore of the King of Chaos. However, as soon as Yang Xiaoshan left the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, someone reported Yang Xiaoshan's whereabouts to Lin Wei. When Lin Wei heard it, he smiled coldly, with murderous intent in his eyes. Yang Xiaoshan, I said you won't live to the apprenticeship ceremony. Therefore, not long after Yang Xiaoshan left the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, someone followed Yang Xiaoshan and followed Yang Xiaoshan to the uninhabited place. Just when Yang Xiaoshan came to the no man's land, suddenly, the opponent stabbed Yang Xiaoshan in the back with a sword. The opponent's speed was so fast that people could not react at all. Even Yang Xiaoshan did not have time to activate the 4 heaven-defying divine bodies for defense. However, even if Yang Xiaoshan activated the 4 heaven-defying divine bodies, he could not defend against it because this person's strength was too strong. Even if Yang Xiaoshan activated the 4 divine bodies, the barrier would be broken in an instant. Just when the opponent's longsword stabbed Yang Xiaoshan's back, suddenly, a golden light shield blocked the opponent's longsword. No matter how strong the opponent was, he could not break the golden light shield. The opponent was stunned. Yang Xiaoshan turned around and looked at the opponent with cold eyes. The person who intercepted him was Lin Sien, the elder of the Silver Sky Blood Demon clan who followed Lin Wei. Looking at Yang Xiaoshan's cold eyes, Lin Sien's heart trembled, and he had a bad premonition. He retreated in panic, but it was too late. Ding Yi instantly grew into a giant tripod that supported the sky, burning with heavy golden flames, and bombarded it instantly with the momentum of a falling star. With a loud bang, Lin Sien was blasted into the ground. Yang Xiaoshan flew forward and came to Lin Sien, only to see Lin Sien lying there dying, looking at Yang Xiaoshan and Ding Yi in disbelief. It seemed that he did not expect that besides the black dog, Yang Xiaoshan would have such a terrifying ding. Is it a chaos artifact? Lin Wei sent you? Yang Xiaoshan looked at Lin Sien, who was almost turned into a pool of blood and flesh, and said coldly. Lin Sien smiled strangely. Yang Xiaoshan, I can't kill you today, but you will be hunted down by our Yinshan Blood Demon clan endlessly in the future. Next time, our Yinshan Blood Demon clan will send a stronger master to kill you, until you die. Hearing this, Yang Ocean's face was normal. "Don't worry, the Yinshan Blood Demon clan will be exterminated by me soon." After saying that, he was too lazy to ask any more questions and swung the other person's head off with a sword. Looking at Lin Sen's head rolling down, Yang Ocean searched for a space artifact from him. When he opened it, he found that there were quite a few good things inside. There was the key of Hangmeng, the key of origin, the Hunyuan Heavenly Tribulation Thunderwater, and the Divine Grade Spirit Stone. It was just a pity that there were no divine medicines and heavenly Dao holy water above the 10 million grade. There were a few Yinshan Blood Demon clan's techniques. Yang Ocean took a quick look at them. They were not the most profound Blood Demon divine techniques of the Yinshan Blood Demon clan, so he was too lazy to look through them carefully. After a divine fire burned Lin Sen's body clean, Yang Ocean gave half of the Hunyuan Heavenly Tribulation Thunderwater he got to Uncle Ding, and then continued to fly forward until he came to the deepest part of an uninhabited mountain range and stopped. Then he set up a shielding divine formation around him, and then began to sit cross-legged on the ground, and began to operate the law of condensing the divine power. Soon, the first law was condensed. Then, the second one, the third one. Each law was the same as the previous one, with a diameter of 10 miles, spewing endless chaotic energy, and the chaos runes on it were densely packed, comparable to a dense forest. Just as Yang Ocean was condensing the law of chaos, Lin Wei was walking back and forth in the cave restlessly. Lin Sen had been out for a long time and still hadn't come back, which made him feel uneasy. Could it be that the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion sent a master to protect Yang Ocean in secret? The more Lin Wei thought about it, the gloomier his face became. He wanted to send someone to inquire about Yang Ocean's news, but he didn't dare to. He couldn't sit or stand. More than a month passed. In each of Yang Ocean's godheads, there were another 1.2 million laws of the King of Chaos. When Yang Ocean successfully condensed 1.2 million laws, he stopped. Soon, the sky opened, and the power of the heavenly Dao turned into golden rain, and fell into Yang Ocean's body. Yang Ocean practiced the skills, constantly integrating and refining the power of the heavenly Dao. As he merged with the power of heaven, the 5 divine bodies continued to improve, and the 4 10,000-foot gods of the god of time appeared around his body, and the light surged. 4 days later, the power of heaven stopped descending. When 4 days passed, Yang Ocean discovered that the chaos divine body had broken through to the 7th level. The speed was so fast that Yang Ocean was surprised. If he continued to practice like this, it would not take long for the chaos divine body to break through to the 14th level and then condense the chaos god. And it was a dual system chaos god. When he returned to the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, he saw many disciples discussing Lin Wei. "I heard that senior brother Lin Wei has broken through the 5th level of the Divine King and has also cultivated the 10th strongest sword realm. The 10th strongest sword realm. I heard that he is still trying to attack the 5th legendary divine body. I wonder if he can succeed. If he succeeds, it will be too terrifying." However, even if senior brother Lin Wei breaks through the 5th level of the Divine King and cultivates the 10th strongest sword realm, it is useless. He is no match for the young master. Listening to everyone's discussion, Yang Ocean was surprised. He didn't expect that Lin Wei not only broke through the 5th level of the Divine King, but also cultivated the 10th strongest sword realm. Then, another disciple discussed, "The apprenticeship ceremony will be held in a few days. Some people say that people from Keishan Academy are here to congratulate this time. Keishan Academy doesn't have a very good relationship with our Shayandi Divine Mansion. Why are they here to congratulate? When they come, I wonder if they will cause trouble for the young master." Chapter 887 How about we make a bet? People from Keishan Academy are coming too? Yang Ocean was also quite surprised. "Yes, I heard that it is the Lord of Keishan who is coming." A disciple lowered his voice and said in an extremely odd tone. When the disciples around heard that it was the Lord of Keishan who was coming, they were all shocked and all looked terrified. The Lord of Keishan is a supreme being who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Lord of Heaven and Earth. The Lord of Keishan is at the same level as the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Even if his combat power is not as good as the Lord of Heaven and Earth, it is not much different. This time, the 9 saints of Keishan Academy will also come with the Lord of Keishan. The disciple said. 9 saints. The disciples exclaimed. The 9 saints is the last disciple of the Lord of Kashan and the young master of Kashan Academy. He is not only talented in martial arts, but also proficient in piano, chess, calligraphy and painting. Especially his talent in piano is amazing. According to legend, his piano practice has reached the realm of manifestation of saints, and he ranks 9th in his family, so he is called the 9 saints. 9 saints are here too? I'm afraid those female disciples will have wet dreams again. A disciple said with envy, unable to hide his jealousy. 9 saints are extremely handsome, and he is the last disciple of the Lord of the Sky and the young master of the Sky Academy. Naturally, there are many female disciples who admire him. 9 saints are here. Will he ask our young master to compete in the art of the zither during the apprenticeship ceremony? A disciple suddenly said with a strange look on his face. That's hard to say. Another disciple frowned. I just don't know how good our young master is at the art of the zither. If we compete in the art of the zither, who can compare with 9 saints? Wouldn't our young master be embarrassed then? It's normal if we can't compete. Our young master can also ask him to compete in the art of swordsmanship. No matter how strong 9 saints is in the art of swordsmanship, he can't compare with our young master. Everyone discussed. 9 saints. Yang Xiaoshan said. Of course he knew this 9 saints. The name of 9 saints resounded throughout the millions of continents in the divine realm. However, he did not take the 9 saints' arrival seriously. After returning to the cave, Yang Xiaoshan cut out a large piece of chaos spirit stone, sat cross-legged on it, and continued to swallow the life god fruit and heavenly holy water to practice. In his spare time, he would look through the various books on music, chess, calligraphy, painting, astronomy, and geography left by Liang Li. Sometimes, Dong Fangnao would come with his master Han Feng, and they would get together to drink wine and discuss swords. Sometimes Dong Fangnao and Han Feng would join forces to spar with Yang Xiaoshan. Of course, when they sparred, they did not use divine power and the sword domain, but only pure swordsmanship. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. The apprenticeship ceremony arrived. Kangsu Supreme Zaoming sent his disciples to call Yang Xiaoshan early. Yang Xiaoshan followed the disciple out of the cave, but not long. After leaving the cave, he met Lin Wei on the road. When Lin Wei saw Yang Xiaoshan, he gritted his teeth and said, Yang Xiaoshan. On the surface, Lin Wei's injury seemed to have healed. Yang Xiaoshan looked at Lin Wei, who was gritting his teeth. I heard that you broke through the 5th level of the God King and cultivated the 10th strongest sword realm. How about we have another exchange later? Lin Wei's face twitched. To be honest, after he broke through the 5th level of the God King and cultivated the 10th strongest sword realm, he did want to find Yang Xiaoshan to exchange again, but in the end he didn't dare. After today, I will be the young master of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. Yang Xiaoshan said, according to the rules of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, you must call me the young master when you see me in the future. Yang Xiaoshan and the disciple broke through the air and left. Lin Wei stared at Yang Xiaoshan's departing figure, and his eyes almost spit out fire. That look was as if he wanted to bite Yang Xiaoshan's flesh and blood. Don't worry, young clan leader, the 9 saints will definitely embarrass Yang Xiaoshan at the apprenticeship ceremony later. If Yang Xiaoshan can't even play an ordinary song, he will definitely be ridiculed as a reckless man, said the disciple next to Lin Wei. Lin Wei suppressed his anger and nodded, saying, you are right. We will just sit and watch the show at the apprenticeship ceremony. Then he went to the main hall of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion with his disciples. After a while, Yang Xiaoshan came to the cave of the Lord of Heaven and Earth. The Lord of Heaven and Earth and the Supreme Kangsu Zaoming were both there. When they saw Yang Xiaoshan coming, they stood up and took Yang Xiaoshan to the main hall. On the way, the Lord of Heaven and Earth smiled at Yang Xiaoshan and said, people from Kashan Academy are coming to congratulate you. I believe you have heard that if those sluts come to you to learn the art of the zither at the apprenticeship ceremony, you can just use your swordsmanship to beat them. Yang Xiaoshan almost laughed. He didn't expect the Lord of Heaven and Earth to say such a thing. Sluts? The supreme Kangsu Zaoming also looked a little embarrassed and smiled. The disciples of Cation Academy often call us disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion rough men, so our disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion call them sluts in return. Yang Xiaoshan was sweating. There is also this illusion. When the Lord of Heaven and Earth and Yang Xiaoshan arrived at the main hall, the hall was already crowded with people. Seeing the Lord of Heaven and Earth coming, the masters and disciples were all excited and respectful. Some bowed deeply, and some even prostrated. The Lord of Heaven and Earth asked everyone to stand up, and then glanced at them. Has Xiaomozi from Cation Academy not arrived yet? Xiaomozi was his respectful name for the Lord of Heaven and Earth. But no one dared to answer. The Lord of Heaven and Earth, Yang Xiaoshan, Zaoming and others entered the main hall. Not long after they sat down, the Lord of Heaven and Earth led a group of masters from Cation Academy to arrive. The Lord of Heaven and Earth was wearing a scholar's brocade robe and looked like an ordinary old man reading. It was hard to tell that he was a master. After the Lord of Heaven and Earth arrived, he called the Lord of Heaven and Earth Senior Guo. Liang Li, the founder of Cation Academy, was of the same generation as the Lord of Heaven and Earth, and the Lord of Heaven and Earth was Liang Li's disciple, so the Lord of Heaven and Earth was a generation older. There were not many people coming to Cation Academy, only 10. The ninth saint stood behind the Lord of Cation, Zhumo, and his eyes fell on Yang Xiaoshan. Next, it was the apprenticeship stage. After the complicated apprenticeship ceremony, Yang Xiaoshan, Hongfeng, and Huang Yan completed the apprenticeship ceremony. Then, the various sects and schools congratulated the Lord of Heaven and Earth and Yang Xiaoshan. After 3 rounds of wine, the ninth saint suddenly stood up and clasped his fists to the Lord of Heaven and Earth and said, "Your Majesty, today's ceremony is such a festive day. If we only drink, it would be boring. I would like to play a song with the master of the house to cheer everyone up. Is that okay? Here we go." Everyone put down their glasses. Everyone's eyes fell on the Lord of Heaven and Earth and Yang Xiaoshan. The Lord of Heaven and Earth was about to speak, but Yang Xiaoshan suddenly stood up and clasped his fists and said, "Master, the ninth saint is right. Today's ceremony is so boring. If we only drink, then the ninth saint and I will play a song together to cheer everyone up." The Lord of Heaven and Earth and everyone else were surprised. Although he didn't know what his disciple was up to, since Yang Xiaoshan had said so, the Lord of Heaven and Earth nodded and said, "Okay." Yang Xiaoshan turned to the 9 saints and said, "But if we just play, it would be boring. How about we make a bet?" Chapter 888 Yang Xiaoshan took out a xylophone. A bet? Everyone was surprised. The 9 saints also looked at Yang Xiaoshan in confusion, not understanding what Yang Xiaoshan was going to do. He smiled and said, "I wonder what the young master wants to bet on." Yang Xiaoshan had an extra time divine steely in his hand. "I heard that your Cation Academy also has a time divine steely. If I play worse than you, this time divine steely will belong to your Cation Academy. If you play worse than me, the one in your academy will belong to me. If he gets the time divine steely from Cation Academy, there will only be 2 time divine steelers left." Then, Yang Xiaoshan took out another chaos spirit vein. "However, 1 time divine steely is too little. I still have 1 chaos spirit vein, plus 1 more chaos spirit vein. He urgently needs a chaos spirit vein to cultivate the chaos divine body." Just when everyone was surprised by Yang Xiaoshan's chaos spiritual vein, Yang Xiaoshan was still not satisfied and took out another jade bottle and opened it. "There are 60 mouthfuls of heavenly Dao holy water in it. It would be a burden for me to keep it on me, so add these 60 mouthfuls of heavenly Dao holy water." He remembered that his senior brother Zaoming said that there were a lot of heavenly Dao holy water in Cation Academy, but unfortunately, he only had so much heavenly Dao holy water on him now. Otherwise, he could add more. Everyone was looking at the time monument, chaos spiritual vein, and heavenly Dao holy water in Yang Xiaoshan's hand in amazement. The time monument was nothing, but the chaos spiritual vein and heavenly Dao holy water had a huge visual impact on everyone. That was a whole chaos spiritual vein, and 60 mouthfuls of heavenly Dao holy water. Even Zaoming and the Lord of Heaven and Earth were surprised. The 9 saints were in doubt and looked at the Lord of Creation. The Lord of Creation looked at Yang Xiaoshan and said with a smile, "I didn't expect the young master to be so courageous." Okay, we, the Cation Academy, will take this bet. Then he looked at the people in the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. Is there anyone else who wants to bet together? No matter how many there are, we, the Cation Academy, will take them all. Zaoming heard this and pondered. In that case, I will add to 20 million-year-old divine medicines. He took out the 2 divine medicines, and the hall was immediately filled with the fragrance of medicine. Although he didn't think Yang Xiaoshan had much chance of winning, no matter what, he, the acting lord of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, had to support his junior brother. I will also add to 10 million-year-old divine medicines. Huang Yan, the princess of the eternal divine kingdom, suddenly said. Everyone looked at Huang Yan. Huang Yan's face was not red, and her heart was not beating. I will also add a 10 million-year-old divine medicine. Han Feng said. This 10 million-year-old divine medicine was given to him by the ancestor of Taixuan Sword Sect, and he had not had time to refine it. Afterwards, Dan Fangao also added a bet of 20 divine spiritual veins. The Lord of Heaven and Earth smiled and said, since so many people have added bets, I will add some too. At this point, he took out a chaotic spiritual vein, but his chaotic spiritual vein was much larger than Yang Xiaoshan's, and the chaotic spiritual energy was stronger and purer. Middle grade chaotic spiritual vein. 9 Saints was surprised. Chaos spiritual veins are also divided into low grade, medium grade, high grade, and top grade. The one in Yang Xiaoshan's hand is a low grade chaotic spiritual vein. Low grade chaotic spiritual veins are rare, let alone medium grade. Seeing this, the Lord of Cation smiled and said, it seems that Senior Guo has great confidence in your disciple. Then he said, okay, we will take it all from Cation Academy. Of course, this is not arrogance, but he has absolute confidence in his disciple. 9 Saints. 9 Saints looked at Yang Xiaoshan. I wonder what song the young master wants to play. Everyone knows that he is very advanced in the art of playing the zither. If he lets him choose the song, it would be a bit of bullying Yang Xiaoshan, so he lets Yang Xiaoshan choose. Since it's a festive day, let's play a song called Dragon and Phoenix Appearing for Good Luck. Yang Xiaoshan said with a smile. Dragon and Phoenix Appearing for Good Luck is not a profound song, but a 7th level music score. Generally, everyone will play it on festive days. Musicians are divided into levels 1 to 10. Above level 10 is the King of Musicians, and above the King of Musicians are the God of Musicians, the Saint of Musicians, and the Immortal of Musicians. The 9 Saints have been able to show their holiness through the sound of the music, which is beyond the realm of the God of Musicians, and has reached the level of the Saint of Musicians. As long as they are music players above level 7, they can play a 7th level music score like Dragon and Phoenix Appearing for Good Luck. Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan chose Dragon and Phoenix Appearing for Good Luck, the 9 Saints nodded and smiled. Okay, in that case, I will show my ugliness first, and please appreciate it, Master Xiaofu and everyone. At this point, he took out a zither. This zither is ancient, and has images of various prehistoric beasts on the body of the zither. The beasts speak a harp. The beasts speak a harp, although not one of the 10 sacred harps in the divine realm, is also a very famous harp, passed down from the hands of a legendary harp master in the prehistoric period. The 9th Saint placed the harp on the table, sat down, calmed down, and then began to play. Suddenly, a pleasant sound of the harp came out like flowing water. The sound of the harp of the 9th Saint was sometimes like flowing water in the mountains, sometimes like the surging sea, sometimes like a dragon in the sky, and sometimes like the king of beasts walking on the earth. His sound of the harp made everyone seem to have entered a magical world. Flowing like clouds and water is the realm of a 10th level harpist, and the sound of the harp of the 9th Saint has now surpassed the flowing like clouds and water, and entered a fascinating realm. The 9th Saint sat there, as if he was the harp and the harp was himself. The unity of man and harp is fascinating. The realm of the Harp King, an ancestor said in surprise. Although all zither players above level 7 can play the 7th level zither score, it is extremely difficult to play such an ordinary zither score in an attractive way. The more ordinary the zither score is, the harder it is to make it attractive. At this moment, suddenly, the hands of the 9 Saints accelerated, leaving a trail of after images in the air, and notes flew out of the zither. Moreover, these notes kept changing, and condensed into a phoenix and a real dragon. Dragon and phoenix bring good luck. This is the highest level of dragon and phoenix bring good luck. The sound of the zither turns into spirit. As the player said excitedly. If the zither score of dragon and phoenix bring good luck can be played to the highest level, the sound of the zither will turn into spirit, condensing into dragons and phoenixes, and realizing the true meaning of dragon and phoenix bring good luck. However, the sound of the zither turns into spirit, which can only be done by at least the realm of the god of zither. Even the supreme Kangsu Zaoming had to marvel at the high level of the Nine Saints zither. When the Nine Saints finished playing a piece and stopped, the sound of the piano still lingered in everyone's ears for a long time. The pair of phoenixes and real dragons transformed by the piano sound circled the hall for a circle before gradually dissipating. Everyone sat there, their hearts still surging for a long time. Everyone looked at Yang Zaoshan. Zaoming, the supreme Kangsu, frowned. He had originally held a glimmer of hope, but now the Nine Saints have played the dragon and phoenix to the highest level. Is his junior brother bound to lose? Lin Wedi in the crowd looked at Yang Zaoshan and sneered. Under the gaze of everyone, Yang Zaoshan took out a xylophone. Seeing the xylophone in Yang Zaoshan's hand, the Nine Saints was puzzled. He could see that the xylophone in Yang Zaoshan's hand was not a famous xylophone, but a newly made one. Chapter 889, a draw. That's not certain. Seeing everyone's confusion, Yang Zaoshan explained, this xylophone was made during my free time in the past 2 years. And it was made of ordinary wood, even the strings were ordinary. Although he had a Cheyenne Lang Shenkin, it was the kin of the founder of Kaishan Academy. It would be inconvenient to play it on weekdays, so he made one casually. Although the materials used were ordinary, it was suitable for Yang Zaoshan. It was a kin made by Yang Zaoshan according to his mind. Hearing that the kin used by Yang Zaoshan was only made during his free time, everyone was stunned. Jia Shengangzi said, if the young master does not have a good kin, you can use my beast language kin first. He used a famous kin, while Yang Zaoshan used an ordinary kin. Even if he won, he felt that he won unfairly. Yang Zaoshan smiled and said, no, this xylophone is quite easy for me to use. In the past few years, he often played this xylophone. Jia Shengangzi had to give up after hearing this. The Lord of Creation said with a smile, it seems that the young master is very confident in his kin. How long has he practiced kin? Yang Zaoshan replied, I started to learn kin music 4 years ago. Everyone looked strange. In other words, Yang Zaoshan has only practiced kin for 4 years. Kangsu Supreme Zaoming was also stunned. This kid, who has only practiced kin for 4 years, dared to compete with the Nine Saints in kin? And he made such a big bet. Dong Fangao, who had followed the bet of 20 divine spirit veins, couldn't help but smile bitterly. He usually talked about kin with Yang Zaoshan. Seeing that Yang Zaoshan was good at kin, he never thought that Yang Zaoshan had just started to learn kin. Yang Zaoshan sat down cross-legged, slowed down, and suddenly his hands turned into a residual shadow, and instantly fell on the xylophone. Suddenly, a sound of kin like flowing clouds and water sounded from the xylophone. Previously, the sound of the kin of the Nine Saints kept entering everyone's ears, which was fascinating. But at this moment, Yang Zaoshan's piano music seemed to have a magical power, constantly drilling into everyone's hearts, and it actually made everyone feel comfortable. That's right, it was a comfortable feeling. It felt like this piano sound was the sound of nature, the most beautiful sound in the world. The sound of nature. The Nine Saints were shocked and looked at Yang Zaoshan in disbelief. The unity of man and piano is fascinating, and Yang Zaoshan is the unity of man, piano, heaven and earth. Only when the three are united, can the sound of nature be played. Seeing that Yang Zaoshan played the sound of nature, as soon as he made a move, not only Zaoming, the supreme Kangsu, and a group of ancestors were greatly surprised, but even the Lord of Heaven and Earth, the Lord of Creation of Heaven and Earth were greatly astonished. After practicing for 4 years, you can practice the sound of nature? Like the Nine Saints, who practiced the piano for 100 years, and entered the state of unity between man and piano. It caused a sensation in the entire God realm, and was hailed as a miracle in the God realm. And the unity of man, piano, heaven and earth is even more difficult. Lin Wei, the young patriarch of the Silver Sky Blood Demon, was even more incredulous. After 4 years of piano practice, he was able to produce the sound of nature. Isn't Yang Xiaoshen's talent in piano stronger than his talent in swordsmanship? He looked grim, staring at Yang Xiaoshen's hands. Even if Yang Xiaoshen could really play the sound of nature, he would still lose. Because the sound of the piano of the Nine Saints has become spiritual and has transformed into a phoenix and a real dragon, which is one level higher than the sound of nature. At this moment, suddenly, Yang Xiaoshen's hands became faster again, and it was even faster than the fastest time of the Nine Saints just now, so fast that everyone was dazzled. The Nine Saints saw Yang Xiaoshen's technique and was surprised. Heavenly Void Divine Hand. Isn't the Heavenly Void Divine Hand lost? How could Yang Xiaoshen know the Heavenly Void Divine Hand? The Heavenly Void Divine Hand is one of the 10 major playing techniques in the Divine Realm, and it is the most difficult to learn. But if you can learn it, you can raise the sound of the piano to another level. The Lord of the Sky was also surprised to see Yang Xiaoshen knew the Sky Void Divine Hand. The Sky Void Divine Hand was in the Sky Academy back then, but it was lost later. Now even the Sky Academy doesn't have it. I wonder where Yang Xiaoshen learned the Sky Void Divine Hand? He couldn't help but look at the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Obviously, he wondered if it was the Lord of Heaven and Earth who gave Yang Xiaoshen the secret book of the Sky Void Divine Hand. Everyone was attracted by Yang Xiaoshen's magical technique. When Yang Xiaoshen performed the Sky Void Divine Hand, his hands turned into 10 hands. 10 hands were playing. Is this an illusion? A sword master asked in surprise. But no matter how he looked at it, he couldn't tell it was an illusion. It seemed to be real. But suddenly, a note flew out of Yang Xiaoshen's wooden piano. Seeing this note, everyone was shocked. Everyone was familiar with this scene. Just now, the Nine Saints played a note, and then the sound of the piano turned into a spirit. Is this going to turn the sound of the piano into a spirit? A sword ancestor murmured. The sound of the piano turned into a spirit. This is the realm of the piano god. Many warriors would cook wine and play the zither in their spare time. They certainly knew how difficult it was to turn the sound of the zither into spirit. Many ancestors could not reach this realm in their entire lives, but now Yang Xiaoshen, who had only been in contact with the zither for 4 years, was about to turn the sound of the zither into spirit. Impossible. He absolutely cannot reach the realm of turning the sound of the zither into spirit. Lin Wei stared at Yang Xiaoshen. His eyes seemed to be about to spit out something. The Nine Saints also stared at Yang Xiaoshen closely. He had practiced the zither skill for 100 years and entered the realm of the king of zither, where man and zither were one. But he had practiced hard for thousands of years to enter the realm of the god of zither, where the sound of the zither turned into spirit. Yang Xiaoshen, who had just been in contact with the zither for 4 years, also entered the realm of the god of zither. He really couldn't believe it. In the eyes of everyone who couldn't believe it, notes kept flying out of the xylophone, and finally, these notes began to condense into the appearance of a real dragon. When the appearance of the real dragon condensed out, everyone was shocked. It was really the sound of the zither turning into spirit. Auspicious dragon and phoenix. This is just a dragon. The phoenix has not yet appeared. An old ancestor of Kashan Academy said. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw the notes flying out of the wooden harp again, and then gradually condensed into a phoenix. At this moment, the real dragon and phoenix were complete and coiled in the hall. Auspicious dragon and phoenix. Impossible. Lin Wei had been staring at Yang Xiaoshen, secretly praying that Yang Xiaoshen would not be able to condense the real dragon and phoenix. Now that the real dragon and phoenix appeared, he could not help but stand up and shout. Everyone's eyes fell on Lin Wei. Lin Wei realized that he had lost his composure. Facing the eyes of the Lord of Heaven and Earth and Xiaoming, he was so scared that he sat down quickly. The Lord of Kashan looked at the real dragon and phoenix in front of him with mixed feelings. He didn't believe that Yang Xiaoshen had only been exposed to the way of the harp for 4 years and reached the realm of the harp sound into spirit. However, Yang Xiaoshen's bone age was only in his 70s. Even if Yang Xiaoshen practiced the way of the harp for decades and reached the realm of the god of the harp, it was still extremely shocking. He sighed. I didn't expect that the young master is not only unparalleled in swordsmanship, but also so amazing in the art of playing the zither. Then he smiled and said, in this performance, you and Xupeng are tied. Deng Xupeng is the real name of the 9 saints. Draw. That's not necessarily true. Yang Xiaoshan said, and then his hands moved faster, creating many after images in the air. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 890 Master, I was careless. Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan's hands could move even faster, everyone was shocked. The after images of Yang Xiaoshan's hands finally condensed into 20 hands. Previously, there were only 10 hands, but now, there are 20. As if it would split, it split into 10 more. The great accomplishment of the Heavenly Void Divine Hand. The face of the 9 saints changed. If the Heavenly Void Divine Hand can be cultivated to 10 hands, it is the small accomplishment realm. But when the Heavenly Void Divine Hand is cultivated to the Great Accomplishment realm, it can reach 20 hands. 20 hands of the Heavenly Void Divine Hand are even more difficult to cultivate. Even before the Heavenly Void Divine Hand was lost, there were not many people who could cultivate the Heavenly Void Divine Hand to the Great Accomplishment realm. The Lord of Creation was also stunned when Yang Xiaoshan used the Heavenly Void Divine Hand of the Great Accomplishment realm. Under Yang Xiaoshan's Heavenly Void Divine Hand of the Great Accomplishment realm, notes kept coming out of the xylophone like bubbles, just like the runes on Yang Xiaoshan's body kept coming out when he comprehended the 3000 demon gods array. The speed was so fast that it was dazzling. Soon, the notes condensed again. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw this. Are you going to condense 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes? Shi Leo, who was standing next to Huang Yan, said in a stammer. Condensing real dragons and phoenixes is indeed the highest level that the song Dragon and Phoenix present auspiciousness can achieve, but in history, someone has condensed 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes. However, condensing 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes is even more difficult. Huang Yan did not say anything. Her mind was completely immersed in the world of music played by Yang Xiaoshan. Under the gaze of everyone, the second real dragon was successfully condensed. If Yang Xiaoshan condensed another phoenix, that would be 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes. At that time, Yang Xiaoshan would be able to defeat the 9 saints and win this competition. Lin Wei clenched his fists tightly, and he kept repeating failure, failure, failure in his heart. However, in Lin Wei's silent recitation, notes continued to emerge from the xylophone. The notes began to condense the second phoenix. Everyone was tense. Even the Lord of Heaven and Earth and the Lord of Creation were staring at it without blinking. The phoenix head was condensed successfully first, followed by the body. Finally, only the tail was left. Everyone held their breath. The 9 saints were also extremely nervous. When he played, he was more relaxed and comfortable than ever before, but now he was more nervous than ever before, and even his butt was sweating. Finally, the tail of the phoenix was condensed successfully. The second phoenix flew out. When the second phoenix was condensed successfully, almost instantly, many masters in the whole hall couldn't help but cheer, and even some ancestors of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion were excited and cheered, with joy on their faces. Huang Yan, Hang Feng, Dong Fangnao and others were even more joyful. Dong Fangnao even twisted his butt there. The 9 saints fell down and stared blankly at the 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes. Lin Wen's face was pale, as if he was seriously injured by Yang Xiaoshan again. The Lord of Heaven and Earth, Xiaoming also breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart was relieved. Especially the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Previously, he did not have any great hope for Yang Xiaoshan. Now, Yang Xiaoshan, this disciple, simply gave him a super invincible surprise. The Lord of Heaven and Earth sat there, and even his back seemed to be straightened. Just when everyone thought it was over, suddenly, the 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes coiled in the hall made dragon roars and phoenix calls. The dragon roars resounded through the heavens and the earth. The phoenix calls resounded through the sky. Everyone was stunned. This is turning decay into magic. An old ancestor of the Jun family stared at the 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes that seemed to come alive, trembling with excitement. You know, these 2 pairs of real dragons and phoenixes were transformed from musical notes and had no life, but now, they actually made dragon roars and phoenix calls, as if they had life. If this is not turning decay into magic, what is it? Such means they have never heard of it before. Good. Zaoming, the supreme Kangsu, couldn't help but applaud. Others also cheered for such a magical means. The Lord of Creation also exclaimed, "We are lucky to see such a miracle today." Although Yang Xiaoshan still had the strength to condense more notes, he did not play anymore. When Yang Xiaoshan stopped playing, the aftersound still lingered in everyone's hearts. The two pairs of real dragons and phoenixes roared and sang again, and it took a long time for them to dissipate. Even though the real dragons and phoenixes dispersed, everyone still couldn't calm down. If the sound of the piano by the Nine Saints made everyone's hearts stir, then the sound of Yang Xiaoshan's piano shook everyone's soul. Yang Xiaoshan put away the xylophone. The Nine Saints took a deep look at Yang Xiaoshan's xylophone, as if he wanted to imprint Yang Xiaoshan's xylophone into the depths of his soul. Afterwards, the Lord of Creation gave Yang Xiaoshan a chaos spiritual vein and 60 mouthfuls of heavenly Dao holy water on the spot, and also gave everyone the things that others bet. However, the Lord of the Sky said, "I don't have the time monument with me. It's in Arcation Academy. You can come to Arcation Academy to get it later." The Lord of the Sky didn't bring the time monument with him, and Yang Xiaoshan was not surprised. It was enough for the Lord of the Sky to say that he would go to Cation Academy to get it later. Next, the banquet continued. The hall was full of laughter, but everyone in Cation Academy was on pins and needles. After enduring for a while, they stood up and said goodbye. The Lord of the Sky saw that the Lord of the Sky was leaving, and said with a smile, "Xiaomozi is going back so soon. My disciple Xiaoshan wants to learn swordsmanship from your disciple. How about leaving after the learning?" Everyone was sweating. The Lord of the Sky smiled and said, "Senior Guo, you are joking. If we talk about swordsmanship, Xu Peng is no match for your disciple Xiaoshan." Then he said, "However, there will be a chance in the competition between the domains." After speaking, he clasped his fists, and then led the Nine Saints and the Masters of Cation Academy to leave. Everyone from Cation Academy left, and the banquet in the main hall continued. After leaving the divine palace of heaven and earth, the Nine Saints were in a very low mood, and bowed his head and said, "Master, I was careless, I'm sorry." In his opinion, if he tried his best, he would not lose to Yang Xiaoshan. The Lord of Cation glanced at the Nine Saints and said, "You lost this time, you can win again next time." Another ancestor of the Cation Academy said, "Your Majesty is right, Xu Peng, you can win again next time. Next time Yang Xiaoshan will come to the academy to get the Time God Monument, and then you can compete with Yang Xiaoshan again. You are already in the realm of the Kin Saint. Although you lost to Yang Xiaoshan today due to the limitation of the Kin score, it does not mean that you are not as good as Yang Xiaoshan in the Kin Dao." Another ancestor of the Cation Academy said, "Yes, you are the only Kin Saint of the younger generation. No matter how talented Yang Xiaoshan is, it is impossible for him to enter the realm of Kin Saint. After practicing for decades, Yang Xiaoshan was able to beat you today, but he just relied on the Xiangsu Divine Hand, just taking advantage of it. For more tomorrow. Chapter 891. Battles Among Domains. The banquet of the apprenticeship ceremony lasted until late at night. Back in the cave, Yang Xiaoshan gave half of the 60 mouthfuls of heavenly Dao holy water he won this time to Uncle Ding for recovery. Afterwards, Yang Xiaoshan swallowed the heavenly Dao holy water and the destiny divine fruit, and practiced the exercises. One night passed. The next day, his senior brother Zaoming came over, and gave Yang Xiaoshan the 20-million-year-old divine medicines he won yesterday. Yang Xiaoshan was about to refuse, but Zaoming said, "Brother, don't refuse. You are at a low level now and urgently need to improve your strength. Only when your strength improves, can you do more for the heaven and earth divine mansion. Brother will need your help in the future. Besides, these two divine medicines were also won by you." Hearing this, Yang Xiaoshan hesitated for a moment and accepted it. He really needed to improve his strength now. Not only to deal with the Silver Sky Blood Demon clan. If you go to Cation Academy to get the Time Monument, it may be difficult. After Yang Xiaoshan received the magic medicine, Zaoming said, "As far as we know, the Time Monument is in the Snow Lake of Cation Academy." Snow Lake? Yang Xiaoshan was puzzled. "Yes, Snow Lake." Zaoming said, Snow Lake is in the palace where the founder of Cation Academy practiced, but the palace of the founder of Cation Academy is heavily restricted. No one can enter, except the Lord of Cation. Yang Xiaoshan frowned. Even the current dean of Cation Academy can't enter? Yes. Xiaoming said, to break the restriction of the palace of the founder of Cation Academy, you must be able to pull out the harp of the vast sea. Harp of the vast sea. Yang Xiaoshan's heart moved. The harp of the vast sea was left by Liang Li, the founder of Cation Academy. It was placed in front of his palace. But for so many years, no one has been able to pluck the strings of the harp of the vast sea. Even the dean of Cation Academy and the ancestors couldn't pluck it. Yang Xiaoshan felt relieved when he heard this. Harp of the vast sea. If so, it would be easy. After a while, Xiaoming left. His master Hangfeng, Dongfang Ao, and Huang Yan came together. The three of them wanted to give Yang Xiaoshan what they won yesterday. Yang Xiaoshan refused without thinking. These were what Master Hangfeng and the others deserved. Seeing that Yang Xiaoshan didn't accept it, Hangfeng didn't insist and said, Xiaoshan, we plan to accept the mission of the Divine Mansion in a few days and go out to train together. Do you want to go with us? The mission of the Divine Mansion? Yang Xiaoshan was surprised. Hangfeng nodded. Some missions in the Divine Mansion reward 2,000-year-old divine medicines, and some more difficult ones even reward 2. However, the missions that reward to 20-million-year-old divine medicines are much more dangerous. Okay, I'll think about it then. Yang Xiaoshan said, but I don't have time in the next 2 years. It will take another 2 years. In these 2 years, he not only has to refine the 2 divine medicines that his senior brother just gave him, but also has to go to Cation Academy to get the Time Divine Monument. Then the 3 of us will take some nearby missions first, and then when you have time, we can take them together. Hangfeng said. After a while, when the 3 of them left, Huang Yan hesitated to speak. Princess, please speak. Yang Xiaoshan saw Huang Yan's expression and couldn't help but say. Huang Yan was a little embarrassed. Our ancestor said that he wanted to invite you to the palace of the Eternal Divine Kingdom, but I don't know when you have time. Yang Xiaoshan thought about it and said, wait a few days. Huang Yan was relieved when she heard Yang Xiaoshan's agreement, nodded and smiled. Okay, then I will reply to the ancestor and tell you to go in a few days. After the 3 left, Yang Xiaoshan asked Uncle Ding, Uncle Ding, do you know about the disputes among the domains? Yesterday, the Lord of the Creation of Heaven mentioned the urgency of the domains, and he just asked senior brother Xiaoming. This, I'm not very clear. Let's ask Xiao Guo when the time comes. Uncle Ding said, referring to the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Yang Xiaoshan nodded. Then, he began to retreat and refine the 2 magical medicines that senior brother Xiaoming gave him this time. One of these 2 magical medicines is a Dragon Clan magical medicine, which can not only improve his cultivation, but also improve his ancient dragon art. Therefore, Yang Xiaoshan first refined the Dragon Clan magical medicine. The 20-million-year-old divine medicine is indeed extremely powerful. As Yang Xiaoshan continues to refine it, his strength is increasing almost every day. Before, it took him about a year to refine a 20-million-year-old divine medicine, but now, after breaking through the 2nd level of the Lord of God, it doesn't take a year at all. It only takes 11 months to refine it completely. Afterwards, Yang Xiaoshan continued to refine the 2nd divine medicine. This time, it took him only more than 10 months to refine the 2nd divine medicine completely. After refining 2 divine medicines, Yang Xiaoshan's strength has made great progress and reached the peak of the 2nd level of the Lord of God. Seeing that he broke through to the peak of the 2nd level of the Lord of God, after refining to 20-million-year-old divine medicines, Yang Xiaoshan was depressed. As his realm improved, the energy required by the Chaos King Godhead was increasing. If this continued, he would break through to the 4th level of the Lord of God. I'm afraid that the 20-million-year-old divine medicine would not be of much use to him. However, there are not many 30-million-year-old divine medicines, even in the forces like the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion. Where can I find them? It seems that we have to speed up the search for the Time Divine Tree and the Origin Divine Tree. If you have the Time Divine Fruit, Origin Divine Fruit, Hunio and Destiny Divine Fruit, and Hangmeng Divine Fruit, and take them together to practice, the effect will be absolutely amazing. Time divine tree. Yang Zai Ocean said. Then, he checked the Hangmeng divine tree. Now the Hangmeng divine tree has grown very tall, but it is still far from producing Hangmeng ki, let alone growing Hangmeng divine fruit. It seems that we have to continue looking for the innate soil. Yang Zai Ocean came to the cave of the Master of Heaven and Earth. Hearing that Yang Zai Ocean came to ask about the disputes among the domains, the Lord of Heaven and Earth pondered and said, originally, I was planning to tell you, after you broke through to the 10th level of the Divine Lord, but since you asked, I'll tell you in advance. The disputes among the domains refer to the disputes among our divine domain, the boundless demon domain, the hell ghost domain, and the chaos domain. There are space channels between the domains. Normally, these space channels are extremely difficult to open, but every 30,000 years, the restrictions on these space channels will weaken, and it will be much easier for us to travel between the 4 domains. Upon hearing this, Yang Zai Ocean said, Master means that every 30,000 years, there will be a dispute among the domains. That's right. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, every 30,000 years, a Shyandao mountain will appear at the intersection of the space channels between our 4 domains. This Shyandao mountain is very magical. Every time it comes out, there must be 10,000 mouths of Shyandao holy water, 10 plants of 40 million year old divine medicines, 100 plants of 30 million year old divine medicines. Yang Zai Ocean was surprised when he heard this, and said, 10,000 mouths of Shyandao holy water. So many. Yes, 10,000 bottles of heavenly Dao holy water. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, every time heavenly Dao mountain appears, the 4 regions will go to heavenly Dao mountain to compete for these resources. At the beginning, we suffered heavy casualties in the 4 regions in order to compete for these resources. Later, the 4 regions agreed that each region would send disciples to compete, and the disciples' ranking would determine how many resources they could get. Chapter 892, can't even make it into the top 20. Each domain sends out disciples to compete. Yang Zai Ocean asked, what are the conditions for participating in the Shyandao mountain competition? Only disciples with a bone age of less than 50,000 years can participate in the Shyandao mountain competition. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, otherwise, there are no conditions. Each domain can only send 100 disciples to participate. 100? So few. You should know that in the entire God's domain, in addition to the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, there is also the Cation Academy, the Silver Sky Blood Demon Clan, the Nether Hell Demon Clan, the Eternal God Kingdom, the Ancient Dragon Clan, and the Eternal God Kingdom. If it is distributed like this, some super forces will not even have a quota. Since each domain can only send 100 disciples to participate, in order to be fair, before the Shyandao mountain competition, each domain needs to compete. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, there are 100 quotas in the God's domain, and our disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion can generally strive for about 30. 30? Yang Zai Ocean nodded. This is almost 1/3 of the 100 quotas in the entire God's domain. For the Cation Academy, we can generally strive for about 20. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said. Yang Zai Ocean was not surprised that Cation Academy could win about 20 people. After all, Cation Academy was also very strong and had countless talented disciples. I wonder when the next battle between the domains will be. Yang Zai Ocean asked. This was what he cared about most. The next time the restrictions on the channels in each domain will weaken will be 40 years later. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said. Yang Zai Ocean frowned. In other words, the next battle between the domains will be 40 years later? 40 years, the time is too tight. He is only at the peak of the late 2nd level of the Lord of God, not even the 3rd level of the Lord of God. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, you are only at the 1st level of the Lord of God now, your elm is too low, you can't catch up with the next battle between the domains, but you can wait until 30,000 years later to participate. At this point, he was really excited. With your talent and cultivation speed, if you participate in 30,000 years, you will definitely be able to sweep the 4 domains and win the 1st place in the 4 domains. By then, even those perverts in the Chaos domain will not be your opponent. Hearing the Lord of Heaven and Earth call those disciples in the Chaos domain perverts, Yang Zai Ocean was stunned. With the status and vision of the Lord of Heaven and Earth, he could be called abnormal. It seems that the disciples of Chaos Domain are very strong. Master, are the disciples of Chaos Domain very strong? Yang Xiaoshan asked. Very strong. The Lord of Heaven and Earth used her very strong to express, and his voice was a little heavy. Every time the domains compete, the top 10 are all occupied by the disciples of Chaos Domain. Yang Xiaoshan's eyes condensed. The top 10 of the domains are all occupied by the disciples of Chaos Domain. The strongest disciples of our God Domain, Boundless Demon Domain, and Hell can only barely squeeze into the top 10. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said bitterly, last time, our God Domain didn't even have any disciples in the top 10. Not even in the top 10. This was a big surprise to Yang Xiaoshan. Originally, Yang Xiaoshan thought that no matter how strong the Chaos Domain was, there should be disciples in the God Domain who could squeeze into the top 10. But last time, they couldn't even squeeze into the top 20. The last time, the Boundless Demon Realm was better, and one of our disciples managed to squeeze into the top 10. The Lord of Heaven and Earth shook his head and said, but Hell is the same as us. No disciple can squeeze into the top 20. Yang Xiaoshan clenched his fists. Master, if we win the first place in the 4 domains, how many resources can we get? The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, first place, 3,000 mouthfuls of heavenly Deo holy water, 340 million year old divine medicines, and 30 million year old divine medicines. Second place, 2,000 mouthfuls of heavenly Deo holy water, 240 million year old divine medicines, and 30 million year old divine medicines. Third place, 1,000 mouthfuls of heavenly Deo holy water, 140 million year old divine medicine, and 30 million year old divine medicines. Yang Xiaoshan's heart sank. The Chaos Realm always took the top 10 places, so doesn't that mean that the resources in the heavenly Deo mountain were almost all taken away by the Chaos Realm in the past? Doesn't the Divine Realm only get some scraps? The Lord of Heaven and Earth felt helpless. There is nothing we can do about it. Who made us in the Divine Realm not fight? Then he said, and in every previous fight between the domains, the disciples of the Chaos Realm attacked the disciples of our Divine Realm the hardest. Of the 100 disciples who participated in the Battle of Shyandao Mountain, almost half died in Shyandao Mountain. They will never come back. The remaining half are either seriously injured or half disabled. Hearing this, Yang Xiaoshan couldn't help but get angry. Can't we admit defeat in a competition? You can admit defeat. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, the key is that the disciples of the Chaos Realm don't even give you a chance to admit defeat. As soon as they get on the stage, they use a fatal move, and our disciples of the Divine Realm don't even have a chance to admit defeat. Yang Xiaoshan's heart sank. This is just like him. Sometimes the opponent is too weak, and he kills with one punch, and the opponent doesn't even have a chance to speak. The disciples of the Chaos Realm are actually so strong. You should know that the disciples who can represent the Divine Realm in the Battle of Shyandao Mountain are the top disciples in the Divine Realm, but they don't even have a chance to admit defeat. Master, tell me about the situation of the disciples of the Chaos Realm. Yang Xiaoshan took it seriously for the first time. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said, it is difficult for us to produce Chaos Godhead geniuses in the Divine Realm, but the Chaos Realm is blessed by nature, and Chaos Godhead geniuses are born in almost every era. Speaking of this, the Lord of Heaven and Earth had mixed feelings. Lin Wen's talent is amazing, but in the Chaos Realm, it is nothing. Before Yang Xiaoshan appeared, Lin Wen could be said to be the most talented genius of this generation in the Divine Realm. But in the Chaos Realm, he can only be said to be a more amazing genius. Although there is no heaven-defying divine body in the Divine Realm, heaven-defying divine bodies in the Chaos Realm are not rare. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said again, the last time the first in the 4 realms was Xiao Heifeng, he displayed 2 heaven-defying divine bodies. And he cultivated 2 kinds of Chaos Godheads, and they are both top-level Chaos Godheads. Yang Xiaoshan was surprised. 2 top-level Chaos Godheads? He was not surprised that someone had 2 heaven-defying divine bodies, but what surprised him was that the other party cultivated 2 top-level Chaos Godheads. And this Xiao Heifeng, he cultivated 14 kinds of the strongest sword domains. The Lord of Heaven and Earth said in a deep voice, 14 kinds of the strongest sword domains. This is simply a shocking event. Last time, when he participated in the Shyandao mountain competition, he was less than 20,000 years old, but he was already at the peak of the late 10th level of the Divine King. The voice of the Lord of Heaven and Earth fluctuated. So this Zhao Haifeng can still participate in this battle of Shyandao mountain. 30,000 years ago, he was already the first in the 4 domains. 30,000 years have passed, and you can imagine how amazing his strength will be. And last time, he should have hidden a lot of talents. The Lord of Heaven and Earth continued, maybe he has 3 or even 4 kinds of heaven-defying divine bodies. So Master hopes that you will wait until the next time to participate in the battle of Shyandao mountain. In this way, Yang Zhioshan can avoid Zhao Haifeng. Chapter 893, 40 years, time is too short. Next time, let him wait for more than 30,000 years. Yang Zhioshan shook his head. More than 30,000 years is too long for him. After more than 30,000 years, maybe he has reached the end of God. So no matter what, he will participate in the next battle of Shyandao mountain. Master, according to your judgment, if I break through the realm of God King, what place can I get in the battle of Shyandao mountain? Yang Zhioshan asked. The Lord of Heaven and Earth was stunned. Break through God King? His disciple wants to break through to the realm of God King within 40 years. The Lord of Heaven and Earth shook his head secretly. He knew that his disciple had amazing talent, but it was impossible to break through to the realm of God King within 40 years. You know, even if many outer disciples of the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion practiced hard for tens of thousands of years, they might not be able to break through to the realm of God King. However, since Yang Zhioshan asked, the Lord of Heaven and Earth still pondered and said, you have the godhood of the King of Chaos, and you have cultivated the laws of the King of Chaos. If you can break through to the realm of God King, you can hopefully win the top 20. Top 20. This is still the Lord of Heaven and Earth saying it high. In fact, it is not certain whether Yang Zhioshan can squeeze into the top 20. After all, Yang Zhioshan will not face the genius of the God realm, but the genius of the Chaos realm. The last time the Chaos realm participated in the battle of Shyandao mountain, half of the top 20 geniuses were less than 20,000 years old. Therefore, 40 years later, the combat power of the Chaos Realm geniuses participating in the Battle of Shyandao Mountain will be more terrifying than last time, and much more terrifying. Top 20? Yang Zhioshan said to himself. Although his master should have said it higher, his master did not know that he had 15 sword domains, let alone 5 heaven-defying divine bodies. And if he can successfully break through the God King realm, then he will have the 6th heaven-defying divine body, the Heavenly Dao divine body, and by then, he will cultivate 12.96 million Chaos King laws, and it will be double. And by then, his 15 sword domains will have been cultivated to the small success realm, and the power will increase dramatically. Therefore, as long as he breaks through the God King realm, he will have the hope of winning the first place. But the premise is that he must break through the God King realm within these 40 years. 40 years. Yang Zhioshan thought to himself. Time is too tight. Half a day later, Yang Zhioshan came out of his master, the Lord of Heaven and Earth, in his cave. From his master, he learned that in addition to the holy water of heaven and earth, the 30 million year and 40 million year divine medicines, there were also chaos spiritual veins and other treasures in Shyandao mountain. His palm was surging with light, and a large piece of innate soil appeared in his hand. Just now when he asked the Lord of Heaven and Earth about the news of the innate soil, the Lord of Heaven and Earth had a piece in his hand, so he gave it to him. This piece of innate soil is very large. With this piece of innate soil, plus the watering and feeding of the 5 tribulations heavenly grade body pill and the Hunyuan heavenly tribulation thunder water, his Hang Meng divine tree is expected to grow the Hang Meng divine fruit within 100 years. However, 100 years is still too long, and he can't wait that long. He has to let the Hang Meng divine tree grow the Hang Meng divine fruit within 10 years, so he still needs to find more innate soil. The palace of Liangli, the kid from Cation Academy, should have innate soil. Uncle Ding suddenly said, Duobao must have it too. Is there in the palace of Senior Liangli? Yang Zhioshan's heart moved, and then he said, but even if there is, the Lord of Cation should have taken it away, right? That's not necessarily true. Uncle Ding said, Liangli's restriction may not be broken by that little no. When you go to get the time monument, if the innate soil is still there, you can take it. His piece is very big. If you have that piece of innate soil, your Hang Meng divine tree will have the hope of growing Hang Meng divine fruit within 30 years. Hearing Uncle Ding asking him to take the piece of innate soil, Yang Xiaoshan said, isn't that a good idea? Now that you have obtained the Xian Lan Shenkin and Xian Lan Qinpu, you are considered Liang Li's inheritance disciple. It is reasonable for you to take what your master left behind. Uncle Ding said. It seems so. If you get the piece into Obao's hand, the Hang Meng divine tree will have the hope of growing Hang Meng divine fruit within 10 years. Uncle Ding said again. If so, then we have to look for the time god tree and the origin god tree. If you want to break through the realm of God King within 40 years, you can only rely on the Hang Meng god fruit, the time god fruit, the origin god fruit, and the Hunio and destiny god fruit to practice. Uncle Ding said, otherwise, you will not be able to break through to the realm of God King within 40 years. Of course, if you have a 30 million year old divine medicine, it will be fine, but you can't find so many 30 million year old divine medicines in the god realm. And although the 30 million year old divine medicine can improve your realm, it can't improve your several great divine bodies, Uncle Ding said. So, we still have to find the time god tree and the origin god tree. After leaving the heaven and earth domination cave, Yang Xiaoshan thought about it and went to the mission hall to see if there were any tasks that rewarded 20 million year old divine medicines. When he arrived at the mission hall, he saw that the mission hall was overcrowded and many disciples were accepting and handing in tasks. Yang Xiaoshan came to the hall to accept tasks and was greeted respectfully. Yang Xiaoshan looked through those tasks that were almost impossible to complete. In the end, he locked on 3 tasks. One was to enter Taibei Mountain, to find Taibei Blood Toad. One is to go to Xianji Valley, to find the Xianji Divine Tree. The other is to go to the Demon Ancestors Land, the Demon Pond, to find the Demon Lotus. After completing the first 2, both are awarded with 20 million year old divine medicines, and if the latter is completed, the reward is 30 million year old divine medicine. On his way to Cation Academy and Duobao Chamber of Commerce, he will pass through Taibei Mountain and Xianji Valley, which is just right for completing the first 2 tasks. Elder Zhang Jingxi saw that Yang Xiaoshan accepted the 3 tasks, hesitated for a moment, and advised, Master, these 3 tasks are too dangerous. Yang Xiaoshan shook his head and said, I know, but I want to try. Zhang Jingxi saw that Yang Xiaoshan insisted on accepting it, and there was nothing he could do, so he registered Yang Xiaoshan, and then said, a few days ago, Lin Wei and Chen Zhangdang also accepted the Taibei Mountain task. Master, be careful when you go there. Although Taibei Mountain is very large, you may encounter Lin Wei, Chen Zhangdang and the masters of the 2 demon clans when you go there. Oh, Lin Wei also accepted this task? Yang Xiaoshan was surprised. Yes, they accepted it 4 days ago and have already set off. Zhang Jingxi said. Okay, I got it. Yang Xiaoshan said. After accepting the 3 tasks, Yang Xiaoshan left the Divine Palace and headed for the Cation Academy. The Abyss spaceship turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. Inside the spaceship, Yang Xiaoshan sat cross-legged on a large piece of Chaos Spirit Stone. Continued to swallow the Hunio and Heavenly Tribulation Thunder Water, the Destiny Divine Fruit to practice, and refined the Hang Meng Key, the Origin Key, and the Sand of Time that he had obtained from Lin Sien before. On this day, Yang Xiaoshan once again took out the black box that he had obtained from the Demon Cave Mansion before, and urged the power of chaos to try to open it. Chapter 894. What else? Under the crazy bombardment of Yang Xiaoshan's chaos divine power, the black box was surging with light, but even if Yang Xiaoshan used the power of the King of Chaos Law, he still couldn't open the black box. Yang Xiaoshan had to give up. However, he was more and more curious about what was inside the black box. Even his current chaos power couldn't open it. Who left this black box? Ding Yi said, wait until you break through the 7th level of the Lord God, then try again. Yang Xiaoshan nodded. Then wait until the 7th level of the Lord God to try again. He came to the bow of the spaceship and looked at the endless night ahead. Driven by the Chaos Spirit Stone, the Abyss spaceship kept tearing through the night sky and kept approaching Taibei Mountain. Although the Abyss spaceship was fast enough, Yang Xiaoshan still thought it was too slow. He had been looking through Liang Li's books these days and learned that Liang Li had obtained a very large piece of vast sea divine iron. He used this vast sea divine iron to refine a vast sea boat and a vast sea harp. The vast sea boat should still be in the palace of his Cation Academy. This time he went to Cation Academy to look for it. If he could find it, it would be much more convenient for him to go to the land of Demon Ancestor. The land of Demon Ancestor was too far away from the Hanglian continent. If he only relied on his current Abyss spaceship, it would take several years to reach the land of Demon Ancestor. He didn't have so much time to waste. 40 years later, it would be the Battle of Shyandao Mountain. He was now racing against time. Yang Xiaoshan took out a mouthful of Heavenly Dao holy water to water the Destiny Tree. These days, he used Heavenly Dao holy water to water the Destiny Tree from time to time. The Destiny Tree has grown much taller than it did back then, and the Destiny fruit it grew has better effects. However, if he wanted the Destiny Tree to transform into the Hunyuan Destiny Tree, the Heavenly Dao holy water on him was still far from enough. Master Ding, besides Heavenly Dao holy water and Xianshan Ziran, is there no other way to transform the Destiny Tree into the Hunyuan Destiny Tree? Yang Xiaoshan asked. Yes, but that thing is as rare as Heavenly Dao holy water and Xianshan Ziran, Master Ding said. Yang Xiaoshan heard it and couldn't help but feel hopeful. Hunyuan Destiny holy water, Master Ding said. Hunyuan Fate holy water? Yang Xiaoshan was stunned. Hunyuan Fate holy water is actually a kind of heavenly holy water. Uncle Ding said, this thing is even harder to see, so I didn't mention it to you last time. However, the Lord of Fate should have this thing. The Lord of Fate was also a contemporary of Liang Li, the Lord of Heaven and Earth and the founder of Cation Academy, but her whereabouts were erratic, and she had disappeared for many years. Many powerful people in the God's domain believed that she had left the God's domain. The Temple of Fate in the wilderness was most likely the one she left behind. I'm afraid the Lord of Fate has left the God's domain, Yang Xiaoshan said. Although the girl Fate left the God's domain, she stayed in the God's domain for a long time. Her cave may have Hunyuan Fate holy water, Uncle Ding said. You can ask around when the time comes. Hearing Uncle Ding calling the Lord of Fate a girl, Yang Xiaoshan smiled. That was a contemporary of his master, the Lord of Heaven and Earth, and she was very powerful. It was estimated that only Uncle Ding dared to call her a girl, since he knew that the cave where the Lord of Destiny lived might have the holy water of Hunyuan Destiny. Yang Xiaoshan planned to wait until he arrived at the Xiandi Shenfu branch and Uobao Chamber of Commerce to inquire about it carefully. Both the Xiandi Shenfu and Uobao Chamber of Commerce have huge intelligence organizations under their command. In the following days, Yang Xiaoshan continued to practice. Although he could stay in the Xiandi Shenfu and practice with the help of the resources of the Xiandi Shenfu and some secret realms, it was impossible for him to break through to the realm of the God King within 40 years with the help of the resources of the Xiandi Shenfu and the secret realms. After refining a large amount of Heavenly Dao holy water, Origin Key and Destiny Divine Fruit, his strength improved a lot. Yang Xiaoshan felt that he could break through the third level of the Lord of God in a month at most. After breaking through the third level of the Lord of God, he once again condensed the law of the King of Chaos, activated the power of the Heavenly Dao, and improved the Chaos Divine Body. Half a month passed. Taibei Mountain finally arrived. Taibei Mountain is a famous sacred mountain in the prehistoric continent. However, Taibei Mountain is covered with cold snow all year round, and the cold air is extremely shocking, so there are few people coming to Taibei Mountain. It was already evening when Yang Xiaoshan arrived. Due to the cold, the light in Taibei Mountain was much darker than outside. Yang Xiaoshan put away the spaceship and flew into Taibei Mountain. Taibei blood toad is very rare. In the entire God's domain, it is only found in Taibei Mountain and the Hanglian continent. However, this kind of thing usually lives in the deepest part of Taibei Mountain and is hidden in the ice and snow of the cold mountain. It is extremely difficult to find. This thing likes to hibernate. When hibernating, there is no breath fluctuation at all, just like a dead thing, and the skin color is no different from white. It is difficult to find it. However, Yang Xiaoshan still wants to give it a try. Taibei Blood Toad has the blood of the dragon clan. His Tegu Shilumchu is already 18 levels, so maybe there is hope to find it. Taibei Mountain is extremely vast. As Yangtze Ocean flew deeper into Taibei Mountain, the cold became more and more intense. Just as Yangtze Ocean flew deeper into Taibei Mountain, suddenly a group of disciples in the distance were chasing a white dragon marten. These disciples were disciples of Cation Academy. The hair of the white dragon marten is an excellent material for making paint brushes, so the disciples of the Cation Academy often come to Taibei Mountain to hunt white dragon marten and use their hair to make paint brushes. The words and paintings written with the brush made of the hair of the white dragon marten will have better effects. Quick, we can't let this white dragon marten run away. Surround it. The disciple headed by the Painting Academy shouted. The white dragon marten is a product of Taibei Mountain and is also difficult to find, so everyone is trying their best to catch it. However, the white dragon marten is as fast as lightning. Everyone chased it all the way and could not catch it. Soon, the white dragon marten ran behind Yangtze Ocean and passed by Yangtze Ocean. Not far ahead was the blind spot of the snow mountain. Seeing that the white dragon marten was about to run away, a disciple of the Painting Academy hurriedly threw the net in his hand and covered the white dragon marten. However, because the white dragon marten was near Yangtze Ocean, the trap also covered Yangtze Ocean and covered Yangtze Ocean's head. Seeing the trap coming down towards him, Yangtze Ocean didn't think twice, and immediately his whole body's divine power surged, shaking the trap away. Just as the trap flew away, the white dragon marten had already run away, and then flashed into the snowy mountains ahead, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. A group of Painting Academy disciples were anxious and angry, and chased after it, but the white dragon marten had disappeared, and there was no way to track it. It's you. If it weren't for you, we would have caught the white dragon marten just now. A female disciple pointed at Yangtze Ocean angrily and scolded. You compensate us for the white dragon marten. Compensate you for the white dragon marten? Yangtze Ocean looked at the other party. Yes, you go catch a white dragon marten and bring it back to us now, otherwise. The female disciple said angrily. What else? Yangtze Ocean's face was calm. Otherwise, you kneel here. The leading Painting Academy disciple snorted. Until we catch the white dragon marten. Kneel. Yangtze Ocean's eyes were cold. I'm afraid you are not qualified yet. Chapter 895. Sword Realm Breakthrough. I don't have the qualifications. The leading disciple of the Painting Academy laughed. Then I'll let you see if I have the qualifications. When he said this, his whole body was full of momentum, and he had a paintbrush in his hand. However, just as he took out the paintbrush, suddenly, a vast and invincible aura rose from Yangtze Ocean to the sky, and then, the monstrous and terrifying power suddenly exploded with Yangtze Ocean as the center like a super tsunami. The surrounding ground was all blown away by Yangtze Ocean's power. Whether it was the leading disciple of the Painting Academy or the other disciples of the Painting Academy, they were all blown away. All the disciples of the Painting Academy were smashed and flew to the distant mountains. Yangtze Ocean's power hit the distant mountains, and the distant mountains collapsed. The amazing sea snow kept rolling and swallowed up one piece of land after another. From a distance, it looked like an avalanche at the end of the world. All the disciples of the Painting Academy spurted out blood and looked at Yangtze Ocean in horror. No one expected that this seemingly weak young man in blue shirt would burst out with such a strong power in an instant. And this was just the power that the other party burst out in an instant. The other party has not really made a move yet. If they really made a move, I'm afraid they would have been blown up directly. Yangtze Ocean looked at the disciples of the Painting Academy with cold eyes. It seems that you are not qualified to make me kneel. The disciple who led the Painting Academy flushed, ashamed and angry, but dared not say anything else. Yangtze Ocean stepped into the air and left. Let's go back to Cation Academy first. The disciple who led the Painting Academy looked at Yangtze Ocean's back angrily and struggled to stand up. Boy, the green water flows forever, and the green mountains remain unchanged. We will meet again. He swallowed a mouthful of Hunio and Ching Thunder water and left with a group of disciples of the Painting Academy. After Yang Zai Ocean left, he continued to fly to the depths of Taibei Mountain, and at the same time, activated the Tegu Shilingju, and his whole body was full of dragon power, covering the sky and the earth. Just when Yang Zai Ocean arrived at the depths of Taibei Mountain, and flew for a while, he suddenly sensed a weak dragon bloodline power lurking in the deep underground. Yang Zai Ocean's heart moved, and then he broke through the heavy ice and snow, and entered the underground. However, just as Yang Zai Ocean approached the dragon blood power, suddenly, the dragon blood power suddenly moved, and then fled at an astonishing speed. Obviously, the Taibei blood toad sensed Yang Zai Ocean's approach, so it was flying away at a very fast speed. This is also the reason why the Taibei blood toad is extremely difficult to capture. This thing is extremely sensitive to the fluctuations of airflow in space. Once something approaches, it will sense it. Moreover, it escapes very quickly underground, and the land has almost no resistance to it. Seeing this, Yang Zai Ocean urged the power of the two great godheads and the law of chaos, and his speed increased greatly, chasing the Taibei blood toad, but the Taibei blood toad was too fast. Even if Yang Zai Ocean used the power of the 5 great god bodies in the end, he could not catch up with the Taibei blood toad. Don't worry, this little thing can't escape, Grandpa Ding said, and then a golden light wave spread out. This golden light wave was like an invisible wave, penetrating through the heavy land and time and space, and instantly hit the fleeing Taibei blood toad. After being hit by Master Ding's power, the Taibei blood toad had no way to escape. When Yang Zai Ocean caught up with it, he saw that the Taibei blood toad had fallen to the ground in a cave. The Taibei blood toad was not big, only the size of 2 palms, and was snow white in color, and looked very cute. It lay on the ground, staring at Yang Zai Ocean with righteousness. Yang Zai Ocean was delighted, and came to the Taibei blood toad, took out a specially refined jade bottle, and put it in. Seeing that the Taibei blood toad was successfully captured, Yang Zai Ocean breathed a sigh of relief, but fortunately, it was also thanks to Master Ding, otherwise it would be really difficult to capture this Taibei blood toad. After capturing the Taibei blood toad, Yang Zai Ocean was about to leave, and suddenly sensed a weak fluctuation of sword energy in front of him. What is this? The power of the sword formation. Master Ding said, go and have a look. This formation may have already produced the sword field. The Hangliang continent is one of the oldest continents in the divine domain, inherited from the Hangliang. In the Hangliang continent, there are many sword formations that produce the sword field, even more than the Zulang continent. However, with the changes of time, these sword formations are now generally hidden deep in the land of the prehistoric continent, and are difficult to find. Hearing this, Yang Zai Ocean flew in the direction of the induction. As he flew forward, the power of the sword formation became stronger and stronger. Finally, Yang Zai Ocean arrived in front of the sword formation. In front of him was an ancient city, with ancient characters carved on the city walls. The characters on them were all from the prehistoric period. In the center of this ancient city was a huge sword formation. The sword energy was flying, like locusts, densely packed, covering the central area of the city. These sword energies were actually black and white. Yin-Yang Shuangju sword formation. Yang Zai Ocean recognized the sword formation in front of him. In the sword energy of the sword formation, the sword spirit condensed, and had formed a sword domain, and there were 2 sword domains. Seeing that the sword formation gave birth to 2 sword domains, Yang Zai Ocean was pleasantly surprised. Although he has successfully cultivated the 15 sword domains, in order to successfully break through the God King realm, the 15 sword domains need to break through to the small success realm. As long as he merged the 2 sword realms in front of him, his heaven and earth sword realm would be able to break through to the minor success realm. So, under the protection of Uncle Ding, Yang Zai Ocean came to the sword formation. However, to enter the sword realm space, it was necessary to consume the heavenly Dao holy water, so Yang Zai Ocean gave Uncle Ding 2 mouthfuls of heavenly Dao holy water. Yang Zai Ocean sat cross-legged in the sword realm space, and began to comprehend the first sword realm, and then summoned the heaven and earth sword realm and merged them. Now, Yang Zai Ocean's sword realm has been successfully cultivated, so it is much faster to merge the sword realm of the yin-yang double absolute sword formation than before. In less than a month, the first sword realm was successfully merged. Previously, Yang Ocean's sword realm had not been successfully cultivated. After fusing a sword realm, he could cultivate it into a sword realm. However, the sword realm had to break through the minor success realm, and fusing a sword realm could not break through. So, Yang Ocean continued to merge the second sword realm. When Yang Ocean successfully merged the second sword domain, the light of his heaven and earth sword domain skyrocketed, and the domain space skyrocketed wildly, expanding from the previous 10 miles to 100 miles. The sword energy in the sword domain also skyrocketed, more than 10 times the previous one. In the sword domain, the power of each realm is very different. Once it breaks through the minor success, its power is far from comparable to before. His senior brother Zaoming's 14 strongest sword domains have been cultivated to the state of perfection, and the power is so strong that Yang Ocean can't imagine it now. Yang Ocean got familiar with the power of the heaven and earth sword domain after breaking through the minor success, and then studied the yin yang double sword formation for a while before leaving. After finding the Tebe blood toad, Yang Ocean did not delay on the road, and he kept going all the way. After more than 10 days, he finally arrived at Cation Academy. Chapter 896. You must play the harp of the vast ocean yourself. Cation Academy is located on a vast mountain. There are clusters of palaces, ancient trees, and flowing springs. It is elegant and graceful. Occasionally, the sound of a zither can be heard from the academy. The sound of the zither is melodious and pleasant. When the sound of the zither ends, there are applause and cheers. Cation Academy is divided into the Zither Academy, Chess Academy, Painting Academy, and Academy. In each academy, disciples often compete in the art of zither and chess. Yang Ocean walked towards the gate of Cation Academy. When he was about to speak to the disciples guarding the gate, he suddenly saw a group of disciples coming out of the academy. It's you. The people who came out were the group of disciples from the Painting Academy that he met in Tebe Mountain a few days ago. The disciple who made Yang Ocean kneel down recognized Yang Ocean at a glance and glared at him. What's going on? A disciple from the Painting Academy walked over from a distance. Brother Zao, it's him. The disciple pointed at Yang Ocean and said, it was him who lost the white dragon Martin we wanted to capture in Tebe Mountain a few days ago. He also hurt us. The disciple called the eldest brother was the leader of the inner disciples of the Painting Academy, named Zhaofang, who was the best disciple in terms of strength and talent among the inner disciples of the Painting Academy. Zhaofang was very surprised to hear that it was the young man in blue shirt who hurt his fellow disciples in Tebe Mountain a few days ago. He looked at Yang Ocean in surprise. He hurt the disciples of Cation Academy and dared to come to Cation Academy. Just when Zhaofang was surprised, another group of disciples flew over from a distance, led by the disciple of the Lord of Cation, Jia Shengangzi. Jia Shengangzi and a group of disciples went out for training, and just came back. When Zhaofang and the others saw Jia Shengangzi returning, they quickly bowed and saluted. Meet the young dean. Jia Shengangzi seemed not to see Zhaofang and others, but looked at Yang Ocean in surprise. Yang Ocean? Yang Ocean? Exclamation mark. Zhaofang and the group of Tebe Mountain disciples were shocked to hear the 9 saints call the young man in blue as Yang Ocean, especially the group of Tebe Mountain disciples whose faces changed. Who is the only one who can be called Yang Ocean by their young master? Deng Shupeng. Yang Ocean looked at the 9 saints and said, I'm here to take the time monument as promised. Hearing Yang Ocean also call him by his name, the 9 saints were stunned, and then smiled and said, these days, I and the disciples of the academy have been waiting for the young master to come. It's been almost 2 years. I thought the young master would not come. The time monument is in the snow lake of their ancestral palace, and to enter their ancestral palace, one must play the harp of the vast sea. It would be normal if Yang Ocean didn't come. After all, even the dean of their academy and many ancestors couldn't play the harp of the vast sea. Yang Ocean smiled and said, Senior ZHU asked me to take the time monument, so of course I have to come. He is also Liang Li's successor. If we talk about it, the Lord of Creation is also his senior brother. Should the 9 saints call him uncle? The 9 saints smiled and said, since the young master is determined to take the time monument, I will take you there. Okay. Yang Ocean said. How could Yang Ocean not know what the other party was thinking? The other party just wanted to see him make a fool of himself. Every string of the Hanhaken has a restriction imprinted by Liang Li. When the Hanhaken cannot be plucked, it will be blown away by the power of the restriction. Many disciples of the academy have been blown away. So, the 9 saints took Yang Xiaoshan to the palace where Liang Li lived and practiced. Zhao Fang and a group of disciples followed. Yang Xiaoshan will definitely be blown away by the Hanhaken later. Maybe he will even vomit blood. The disciples of Taibei Mountain communicated with each other. They transmitted their messages without worrying that Yang Xiaoshan would hear them. Yang Xiaoshan could not help but glance at the Taibei Mountain disciples. They could not hide their gloating expressions. Soon, the news that Yang Xiaoshan came to take the Time Monument spread. Yang Xiaoshan came to Hanhei Palace to take the Time Monument. Let's go. Suddenly, many disciples rushed to Hanhei Palace. Zhang Xian, the head of the inner disciples of the chess academy, and Zheng Shuayan, the head of the inner disciples of the academy, were studying chess and calligraphy together. When they learned that Yang Xiaoshan was coming, they also got up and rushed to Hanhei Palace. In the Heaven and Earth Divine Mansion, Yang Xiaoshan and Lin Wei fought, and the godhood of the King of Chaos was born, shocking the world. In the past few years, the divine realm has made Yang Xiaoshan seem like a god, especially after Yang Xiaoshan competed with the 9 saints in the art of playing the zither. Yang Xiaoshan was even more mysterious. Zhang Xian and Zheng Shuayan certainly wanted to see if Yang Xiaoshan was really as godly as the legend said. Yang Xiaoshan knows the heavenly void divine hand, and he has reached the great accomplishment stage. Maybe he can really pluck the harp of the vast sea. Zhang Xian said with his eyes flashing on the way. Maybe he can pluck 1 or 2 strings. Zheng Shuayan said, but even if he can pluck 1 or 2 strings, it's useless. The harp of the vast sea is different from ordinary ancient zithers. It has a total of 19 strings. To enter the vast sea palace, you must pluck 19 strings to break the vast sea palace's restrictions. The godhead of the King of Chaos. Zhang Xian sighed. Sometimes I really want to see if his swordsmanship is as powerful as the rumors say. As the head of the inner disciples of the chess academy, a peak powerhouse of the late 10th level of the Divine King, he is not only an expert in chess, but also in swordsmanship. He is one of the 2 with the highest swordsmanship among his peers in the Caitian Academy. At this time, someone also reported the news of Yang Xiaoshan's arrival to the Lord of Caitian. After hearing this, the Lord of Creation just nodded calmly and said, okay, I understand. Although Yang Xiaoshan had an amazing talent in the art of playing the piano, he did not think that Yang Xiaoshan could play the Hanhei harp, so he did not take Yang Xiaoshan's arrival to heart. Soon, Zhang Xian, Zheng Shuayan and other disciples arrived at the Hanhei Palace. Just as Zhang Xian, Zheng Shuayan and others arrived at the Hanhei Palace, the 9 saints also brought Yang Xiaoshan to the Hanhei Palace. In front of the Hanhei Palace gate, there was a large ancient zither, twice as large as an ordinary zither. It was the Hanhei harp made by Liang Li. The Hanhei harp was emitting waves of light, which formed a series of restrictions that enveloped the entire Hanhei Palace. Master, this is the Hanhei Palace. The 9 saints smiled at Yang Xiaoshan, and then pointed at the Hanhei harp. I believe you knew before you came that we can't take you into the Hanhei Palace. If you want to enter the Hanhei Palace, you must play the Hanhei harp yourself. Please. After saying that, he made a polite gesture of invitation. Yang Xiaoshan saw the other parties teasing, and walked towards the Hanhei harp. Thousands of Caitian Academy disciples were looking at Yang Xiaoshan. Under the gaze of everyone, Yang Xiaoshan came to the Hanhei harp, looking at the Hanhei harp in front of him, which was quietly emitting waves of light, and said, it's been so many years, I guess you must be very lonely. Then he reached out and stroked the Hanhei harp, as if stroking the body of a peerless beauty. I don't know if it was an illusion. They seemed to see a different light coming out of the Hanhei harp. Yang Xiaoshan raised his hand and began to pluck the first string. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 897 Yang Xiaoshan must not be allowed to enter Hanhei Palace. Dung. When Yang Zai Ocean plucked the first string, the string made a thumping sound, like a thunderous explosion, or a drum. At this moment, the Hanhaken seemed to have awakened from the ancient times and it actually lit up. Everyone was stunned. They all looked at the shining Hanhaken in surprise. Although their dean had plucked the first string before, the Hanhaken did not light up. Other ancestors plucked the first string, and the Hanhaken did not have such a strange effect. The 9 saints were also very surprised. Brother Zhang, can you see what method Yang Zai Ocean used just now? Zheng Shuiyan asked Zhang Ziyan in surprise. Zhang Ziyan also had a look of doubt on his face, shook his head, and did not speak. Just when everyone was stunned, suddenly, Yang Zai Ocean plucked the second string again, and the second string made a sound like a huge bell. The sound of a huge bell resounded through the world. An amazing wave of air shot out. Seeing this shocking wave of air, the faces of the academy disciples who were watching the show changed drastically, and they fled in panic, but some of them were too late, and were blown away by the air wave. The disciples of Mount Taibei fell down like dogs eating shit. Although the 9 saints and others dodged, they were also in a mess. After standing still, the 9 saints and others were all shocked. Yang Zai Ocean ignored everyone, and raised his hand, to pluck the third string again. Dung. This time, the Hanhei harp shone even brighter, and the third string trembled constantly, as if cheering, excited, and jumping for joy. Because before Yang Zai Ocean, no one had ever been able to pluck the third string. Even the dean of their Cation Academy only plucked the first 2. The third string was the first time someone plucked it. When the 9 saints and others saw that Yang Zai Ocean actually plucked the third string, they all stared. The third string. Yang Zai Ocean plucked the third string. The third string was plucked. Many of the academy disciples around were in an uproar. Zhang Ziyan and Zheng Shuiyan were also surprised. On the way here, they thought Yang Zai Ocean could only pluck 1 or 2 strings at most, but now he plucked the third one. Yang Zai Ocean plucked the 4th string again. The 9 saints stared at Yang Zai Ocean's hand. Boom. The 4th string was plucked again, and this time it made the sound of thousands of swords. This was a sound of killing. The 4th string. A disciple cried out. Yang Zai Ocean plucked the 5th string without stopping. Before the 9 saints and others could react, the 5th string emitted a sun-like light, fiery red. They had never seen the Hanhei harp emit such light. They had never thought that the Hanhei harp would have such light. Yang Zai Ocean continued to pluck the 6th string. When Yang Zai Ocean plucked the 6th string, the 6th string emitted the light of millions of stars. The Hanhaken seemed to contain the light of all things in the world. Every time a string was plucked, a light was emitted. As Yang Zai Ocean plucked more and more strings, the sound became louder and louder, and the sound of the kin continued to spread, and more disciples in the academy heard the sound of the kin. Wei Sheng, the dean of Cation Academy, was discussing the battle of Shyandao Mountain with a group of ancestors. Suddenly, he heard the sound of kin again and again, and was surprised. Usually, many disciples in the academy played the kin, and the sound of kin also came from the hall, but this time the sound of kin seemed completely different from the usual sound of kin. This time the sound of kin was irregular, but it contained a mysterious power that shocked people and even reached the depths of their souls. When Wei Sheng was about to ask who was playing the kin, he suddenly saw an elder of the academy rushing in a panic, and even said in a trembling voice, "Dean, Yang Zai Ocean has plucked the 6th string." The 6th string. Wei Sheng didn't react for a moment, and when he reacted, he stood up suddenly. "You mean Yang Zai Ocean plucked the Hanhei harp?" At this time, another thump of the harp sounded throughout the world. Just now, Wei Sheng and others heard this sound, but they didn't take it seriously. But now, they were shocked and looked towards the Hanhei palace. Could this be it? When the elder heard the sound of the harp, his face changed drastically. Yes, it's the 7th string. Yang Zai Ocean plucked the 7th string. Quick, go to Hanhei palace. Wei Sheng rushed out of the hall without even thinking about it, and rushed to Hanhei palace with all his strength. And all the ancestors also reacted, followed Wei Sheng, and rushed to Hanhei palace with all their strength. The elder also followed in a panic. How could Yang Zai Ocean, a master of the gods, pluck the 7th string? On the way, an ancestor was in doubt. But as soon as he finished speaking, another thump of the harp sounded throughout the world. The 8th string. Wei Sheng and the ancestors' faces changed again. Yang Zai Ocean plucked all the strings, isn't that right? Another ancestor said in surprise. Impossible. As a god, he can't possibly pluck all the strings. The ancestor just said. At this time, another thumping sound of the zither sounded. The 9th string. Quick. Wei Sheng was anxious and angry, and once again sped up, to rush to the Hanhei Palace. We must not let Yang Zai Ocean enter the Hanhei Palace. The Hanhei Palace is the palace of our Academy's ancestors. How can we let an outsider in? The ancestors also sped up. When Wei Sheng and the Academy's ancestors rushed to the Hanhei Palace with all their strength, the sound of the zither continued to sound. The 10th string, the 11th string. With the full efforts of Wei Sheng and the Academy's ancestors, finally, the Hanhei Palace was in sight. At this time, Yang Zai Ocean had already plucked the 19th string. Boom. When Yang Zai Ocean plucked the 19th string, the world rang loudly, and the entire Cation Academy was shaking. The Hanhei harp burst out with all kinds of dazzling light, so strong that it illuminated half of the sky of Cation Academy. Even the Lord of Creation, who was cultivating deep in the forbidden area of the Academy, felt the strong vibration. The Lord of Creation suddenly opened his eyes in surprise, soared into the sky, and then saw the heavy surging light in the direction of the Hanhei Palace. Hanhei Palace. When the Lord of Creation saw that the light and vibration came from the Hanhei Palace, he felt a sudden bad feeling, and flew to the Hanhei Palace through the void. Just when Yang Zai Ocean had plucked all the strings, the restriction covering the Hanhei Palace disappeared suddenly. Yang Zai Ocean did not hesitate, and pushed open the door of the Hanhei Palace. We can't let him in. Wei Sheng, who rushed over, saw it from afar and said angrily, there are many secrets of their academy in their ancestral palace. The 9 saints, and others heard Wei Sheng's angry shout, reacted, and took action to stop Yang Zai Ocean. But when they attacked Yang Zai Ocean, the Hanhei Palace restriction, that had just disappeared suddenly shone again, and actually rebounded everyone's power. The 9 saints and others who had taken action were all shocked and retreated repeatedly, their blood surging, and they spurted out blood. Chapter 898. None of his tricks worked. The 9 saints and the others looked at the Hanhei Palace in fear. At this time, Wei Sheng and the ancestors also arrived. Seeing that the gate of the Hanhei Palace was about to close, Wei Sheng shouted, and suddenly stretched out his palm towards Yang Zai Ocean. But just as he stretched out his palm towards Yang Zai Ocean, the banner of the Hanhei Palace appeared again, and the same light shook, repelling Wei Sheng's power. Wei Sheng only felt an astonishing force coming. Even he could not withstand this force, and was shocked back again and again. Like the 9 saints and the others, he was shocked to the point that his blood was surging, and he vomited blood. Everyone was shocked. At this time, the palace gate closed. When the ancestors were about to take action, suddenly, a figure flashed, and the Lord of Creation arrived. The Lord of Creation suddenly slapped the gate of the Hanhei Palace. Bang! When he put his palm on the gate of Hanhei Palace, the restriction of Hanhei Palace gate vibrated, and also dispersed his power. However, Lord Cation was better. He withstood the power of Hanhei Palace restriction, and was not repelled like Wei Sheng, 9 saints and others. Lord Cation was surprised to see that he could not break the gate of Hanhei Palace. He could break the restriction of Hanhei Palace before, but today the power of Hanhei Palace restriction has become much stronger. What's going on? Lord Cation did not believe in evil, and put his palm on the gate of Hanhei Palace again. It was still the same. When his palm power hit the gate of Hanhei Palace, it was dispersed by the restriction power of Hanhei Palace gate. This happened several times, and it was still the same. In the end, Lord Cation had to give up. He looked at Hanhei Palace, and couldn't help wondering. Master, Yang Zai Ocean? Wei Sheng came to Lord Cation and said, it's okay. Even if he can enter Hanhei Palace, he can't get the time monument, let alone the main hall where your master practices. Lord Cation said, there is another mystery in the snow walking lake. He had tried many times before, but he could not reach the center of the lake. Then, he asked the 9 saints, tell me how he plucked the harp of the vast sea just now. The 9 saints recalled the scene of Yang Zai Ocean playing the harp of the vast sea before. While recalling, he mumbled, Master, Yang Zai Ocean didn't seem to use any tricks to pluck the harp of the vast sea. The Lord of Creation was stunned. What did you say? He didn't use any tricks? Then he asked again. He didn't even use the heavenly void divine hand. Yes, he just plucked the harp of the vast sea like a normal plucked harp. The 9 saints recalled again and answered with certainty. The Lord of Creation asked Zhang Xian, Zheng Xuan and other disciples. Zhang Xian, Zheng Xuan and others answered respectfully, but the answer was the same as the 9 saints. Yang Xiaoshan did not use any special tricks, let alone the heavenly void divine hand. The Lord of Creation was even more surprised. An elder was surprised and asked, does it mean that there is no need for any special technique to pluck the harp of the vast sea? Have we been wrong before? The Lord of Creation looked at the harp of the vast sea and shook his head. It is impossible that there is no need for special technique. Then he said, Yang Xiaoshan must have used some special power to pluck the harp of the vast sea. At this time, Wei Sheng stepped forward again and tried to pluck the harp of the vast sea without any special technique. However, when he plucked the first harp of the vast sea without any technique, he was still repelled by the restraining power of the harp of the vast sea, and the restraining power was no weaker than before. Wei Sheng was blasted and vomited blood again. The people who originally wanted to hold it and give it a try were shocked when they saw this. The Lord of Creation looked into the vast sea palace and said, what special power did Yang Xiaoshan use? Wait until he comes out and ask him, and you will know. Wei Sheng opened his mouth to speak, but in the end he said nothing. He wanted to say, what if Yang Xiaoshan refused to say it then? They couldn't detain Yang Xiaoshan, right? If they dare to detain Yang Xiaoshan, the Lord of Heaven and Earth will probably be the first to kill him. After all, Yang Xiaoshan's identity is there. Yang Xiaoshan didn't know what the Lord of Heaven and Earth and others outside were thinking. At this time, he was walking towards the snow lake. The snow lake was behind the main hall, so he bypassed the main hall and came to the snow lake first. Soon, Yang Xiaoshan stood in front of the snow lake. It was not winter at this time, but a hot summer day, but there was snow falling over the snow lake, and the snow was not white, but a deep blue like the sea. It was the first time that Yang Xiaoshan saw such snow. This is the Hanhei Frost Sky Formation. The snow in this formation has the cold air of the Hanhei. Ordinary gods can't resist the cold air of the Hanhei at all. Uncle Ding said, but you have the sun god armor and the 6 great divine fires, so you are not afraid of the cold air of the Hanhei. But this lake has a mystery besides the cold air of the Hanhei. Mystery? Yang Xiaoshan asked. Don't say you can't see the mystery. Even ordinary masters can't see the mystery of this lake. Grandpa Ding said, the space of this lake has been refined. The space has been refined? Yang Xiaoshan was surprised. He knew how to refine tools and pills, but he could also refine space. If you are strong enough, you can also refine space. Grandpa Ding said, this space has been refined, but there is no trace, and it can't be seen at all. If you don't know the secret of this space, you can't even walk to the center of this lake. Yang Xiaoshan looked at the pavilion in the center of the snow lake. In front of the pavilion, there was a divine tablet inserted diagonally, which was the time divine tablet. Not far from the snow lake, there was a medicinal field, on which a red spider lily was planted, and the red spider lily had reached the level of 20 million years. The soil of the medicinal field was the Xianshan Ziran. However, the prohibition power around the medicinal field was amazing. Yang Xiaoshan's eyes returned to the snow lake again. He planned to take the time divine tablet first. However, although he was not afraid of the cold air in the vast sea, he could not see through the secret of space, so he could only ask Master Ding for help. Master Ding did not need the holy water of heaven this time, but he told Yang Xiaoshan how to walk. Yang Xiaoshan wore the armor of the sun god and took the first step forward according to Master Ding's instructions. When Yang Xiaoshan stepped into the snow lake, he saw that the snow in the snow lake was floating tighter, and an astonishing cold air swept across the world. The cold air was pressing, but it was all blocked by the sun god flame several meters away. Then, Yang Xiaoshan took the second step, which was a bit far, and he stepped more than 10 meters at once, and he could not land on the ground, but stepped 2 meters above the ground. In this way, Yang Xiaoshan walked back and forth in the snow lake. Strangely enough, the footprints of each of his steps did not disappear. Even if he stepped in the air, there were also footprints. It didn't take long for the snow lake to be full of his footprints. When Yang Xiaoshan left 81 footprints in the snow lake, he had unknowingly come to the center of the snow lake. Just as Yang Ocean was about to collect the time monument, he saw the entire space of the snow lake collapse, like pieces of soil falling from all sides. Yang Ocean's face changed, and without thinking, he used all his strength to activate the power of the eternal divine body, to wrap the time monument. Chapter 899, must win 3 games in a row. When Yang Ocean wrapped the time monument with the power of the eternal god body, the collapsing space around him was collapsing at an alarming speed. Yang Ocean shouted loudly, urging all his strength, and instantly pulled the time monument up from the ground. The moment he pulled up the time monument, the collapsing space around him had collapsed to a few meters away from him. Without thinking, Yang Ocean took the time monument up to the sky. Boom. When Yang Ocean soared into the sky, the collapsing space around him had swallowed up the place where he was originally standing. Since there was no restriction in the sky above him, Yang Ocean successfully rushed out of the sky above the snow lake. Yang Ocean landed outside the snow lake. After coming out of the snow lake, Yang Ocean was still shocked and sweated. What if he was a step slower just now? It will be swallowed up by the collapsing space, said Uncle Ding. So, fortunately he was a step faster. Yang Ocean looked at the medicinal field in the distance, and walked towards the medicinal field. Looking at the red spider lily in the medicine field, Yang Ocean was puzzled. Was this red spider lily planted by Liang Li or the Lord of Time? Because many of the red spider lilies he encountered along the way were planted by the Lord of Time. It seems that there are traces of the Lord of Time in many places. It's not too late to ask the Lord of Time about this question when you meet him in the future, said Uncle Ding. The Lord of Time. Yang Ocean nodded. He felt that, after he took the time god tree, it might not take long for him to meet the Lord of Time. The medicine field in front of him had the power of time and chaos. Yang Ocean activated the power of the eternal god body, and the chaos god body easily passed through the restrictions of the medicine field, and then came to the red spider lily in front of the medicine field. Yang Ocean took the red spider lily away. With this red spider lily, he could just swallow it, and impact the 3rd level of the God Lord. Afterwards, he didn't hesitate to put the innate soil of the medicine field into the soil for cultivating the Hangmen God tree. Suddenly, the Hangmen God tree glowed brightly. It is estimated that the Lord of Creation and others outside did not expect that Yang Ocean not only took the time monument, but also took away the Bianhur and Xianshan Zering. Yang Ocean came to the main hall. The main hall was where Liang Li really practiced back then. The vast sea boat should be inside the main hall. Maybe there are other treasures. Yang Ocean's heart was burning. He came to the main hall gate. There were many restrictions on the gate, but it could be opened with the Xian Long technique of the Xian Long Kin score. Only the Xian Long technique could open the main hall gate. Yang Ocean studied for a while, and did not summon the Xian Long Shenkin, but plucked his hands forward. It seemed that strings appeared in the air in front of Yang Ocean. As Yang Ocean plucked, notes flew out one by one, turned into Xian Longs, and then flooded into the main hall gate. Without using the kin, the Xian Long notes were played. This means that Yang Ocean has reached the state of no kin. Manifestation of saint is a state of kin saint, and no zither is even higher than the manifestation of saints. This is the realm of zither immortals. There are no immortals in the world, but Yang Ocean has entered the realm of zither immortals. Seeing that Yang Ocean did not use the zither, but played the Xian Long musical notes, Ding Yi sighed again in his heart. This super pervert. Under the continuous flooding of the Xian Long musical notes, the main hall door was surging with light and slowly opened. When the main hall door was finally opened, Yang Ocean stepped into the hall. I saw that the hall was filled with various books like The Palace in the Dark Forest. Yang Ocean went forward to look through them. They were also books related to zither, chess, calligraphy and painting, astronomy and geography. There were also several notes of Liang Li. Yang Ocean looked through them roughly, and then took away all the notes and all the books. Then, he began to look for the vast sea boat. Finally, in a secret room, he found the vast sea boat. The vast sea boat was placed in the secret room like a small fishing boat, without any brilliance, very dim. If it was thrown on the street, I'm afraid that no one would recognize that it was the vast sea boat, one of the 10 major spaceships in the God realm. However, what made Yang Xiaoshan depressed was that after he used his blood to refine the vast sea boat, he found that the vast sea boat was missing a small hole. If a magic sword was missing a small hole, its power would be greatly affected, not to mention a flying artifact like the vast sea boat. You have to know that this kind of flying artifact shuttles through space, and the airflow resistance is extremely large. If it is missing a small hole, it will definitely be greatly affected. As for what kind of impact it will suffer, he will have to wait until he goes out and really tests it to know. Yang Xiaoshan put away the vast sea boat and searched the main hall again. After finding no other treasures, he came out of the main hall. He walked around the vast sea palace again. At this time, everyone in Cation Academy was already looking forward to it outside. The outside of the vast sea palace was already surrounded by people from the Cation Academy, but it was quiet and no one dared to speak. When Yang Xiaoshan walked out of the vast sea palace, he saw a large number of masters from the Cation Academy outside, and he was not surprised. His eyes fell on the Cation Lord. Senior ZHU. Yang Xiaoshan bowed to the Lord of the Open Heaven and clasped his fists. The Lord of the Open Heaven was in a complicated mood and smiled at Yang Xiaoshan. I didn't expect that the harp of the vast sea that no one in our Cation Academy could play was played by young Master Yang. It really surprised me. Then he stared at Yang Xiaoshan with a burning gaze. I wonder how young Master Yang played the harp of the vast sea of our Cation Academy. At this time, the Lord of the Open Heaven and Wei Sheng and others did not know that Yang Xiaoshan had taken away the time monument, the vast sea boat, and the innate zering. Yang Xiaoshan heard the Lord of the Open Heaven ask, shook his head and said, I was able to play the harp of the vast sea by pure luck. Luck. Many ancestors of the Cation Academy snorted coldly when they heard this. Yang Xiaoshan, at the last apprenticeship ceremony, we competed in the art of playing the zither. I was careless and lost to you. Since you are here today, shall we compete again? The 9 saints said, if you lose, hand over the method of playing the zither of the vast sea. Seeing that everyone was staring at him eagerly, Yang Xiaoshan said, what if you lose? The 9 saints were startled. He loses? Obviously, he never thought that he would lose. If you lose, I want 100 mouthfuls of heavenly Deo holy water into lower grade chaos spiritual veins. Yang Xiaoshan said, Cation Academy is rich, and it is rare to come here, so naturally you have to take away more things. Upon hearing this, one of the ancestors was furious. Yang Xiaoshan, don't push your luck. You should have handed over the method to move the harp of the vast sea to our Cation Academy. Okay. The Lord of Cation laughed and said, if you can beat Shupeng, Zhang Xian, and Zheng Shuayan, I will give you 100 mouthfuls of heavenly Deo holy water into lower grade chaos spiritual veins. Obviously, Yang Xiaoshan must win 3 games in a row. If Yang Xiaoshan loses any game, he will have to hand over the method to move the harp of the vast sea. Deng Shupeng is the most accomplished disciple of the generation of the harp of Cation Academy, while Zhang Xian and Zheng Shuayan are the most accomplished disciples in the Chess Academy and the inner sect of the Academy of Cation Academy respectively. Therefore, Yang Xiaoshan must be proficient in the harp, chess, and calligraphy. He doesn't believe that Yang Xiaoshan is proficient in chess and calligraphy. Chapter 900. Playing the piano doesn't necessarily require a piano. Originally, the Lord of Creation wanted Yang Xiaoshan to win 4 games in a row, including the Painting Academy, but when he thought about letting Yang Xiaoshan fight against the 4 academies of the academy, it was a bit too much of a bully. So, he changed it to 1 against 3. Okay. Yang Xiaoshan said, but if I can beat the 3 of them, I want 3 more 20-million-year-old divine medicines. Didn't the Lord of Creation want him to fight 1 against 3? Then he would want 3 more 20-million-year-old divine medicines. The Lord of Creation looked at Yang Xiaoshan and said with a smile, okay, if you can beat the 3 of them, it would be fine to give you 3 more 20-million-year-old divine medicines. Seeing the Lord of Creation agreed, Yang Xiaoshan said, how do we compete? The 9 saints stepped forward and said, today, the 2 of us will play a piece of music at random. Whoever shows a higher level of zither skills will win. How about it? 1 hour. Hearing the 9 saints competition method, Yang Xiaoshan did not object. Okay. Then he said, last time at the apprenticeship ceremony, you lost. Today, I will let you play first. The nine saints' face was somewhat unnatural when they heard Yang Xiaoshan mention his loss last time. When he mentioned this matter and Yang Xiaoshan mentioned it, the surrounding academy disciples had different feelings. The nine saints stared at Yang Xiaoshan. Okay, in that case, I will show you my ugliness today and play a piece of Three Lives Three Worlds. When the nine saints said that he was going to play a piece of Three Lives Three Worlds, everyone in Kashan Academy was shocked. Whether it was the disciples, the elders, the supreme elders, or even the ancestors, they were all surprised. Even the ancestors were surprised. Three Lives Three Worlds. This is one of the most difficult piano pieces to play in the divine realm. Even many piano masters who have entered the realm of piano masters for many years cannot play it. Because in the process of playing the piece of Three Lives Three Worlds, the three kinds of piano sounds must be seamlessly switched. When playing the most difficult part, the three kinds of piano sounds need to be perfectly presented at the same time. Imagine what it would feel like if two sounds sounded at the same time. The listener would definitely feel noisy. If three sounds sounded at the same time, it would sound even more chaotic in the ears. Therefore, when playing Three Lives Three Worlds, the three kinds of piano sounds need to be presented at the same time, so that everyone can hear them at the same time without feeling chaotic, which is considered successful. To everyone's surprise, the nine saints came to the center of the square in front, then took out the beast language harp, sat down cross-legged, and concentrated his mind and breath. After a while, the nine saints began to play. Soon, the sound of the harp continued to flow out of the beast language harp. The sound of the harp was sometimes as slow as flowing water, and sometimes as fast as a raging wave. The nine saints had completely merged with the harp, but everyone found that the nine saints and the harp had actually begun to merge with the surrounding world. And as the nine saints merged with the surrounding world, his harp sound seemed to fall from the sky, constantly drilling into everyone's hearts, making everyone enjoy it extremely. The sound of nature. An old ancestor exclaimed. Yang Xiaoshan was also surprised. During the apprenticeship ceremony, although the nine saints could merge with the harp, he could not achieve the unity of the harp, the world, and the three. Unexpectedly, in less than 2 years, the way of the harp was improved again, and achieved the unity of the three. At this moment, suddenly, the nine saints' hands moved, forming a series of afterimages in the air. In the afterimage, there was a faint shadow of the Golden Buddha. Golden Buddha hand. The Golden Buddha hand, like the Shiangsu Divine Hand, is one of the 10 great playing techniques in the divine realm. During the last apprenticeship ceremony, the nine saints looked down on Yang Xiaoshan and did not use the Golden Buddha hand. This time, he went all out and used the Golden Buddha hand to the extreme. 20 Golden Buddha hands seemed to appear behind him. It was the Golden Buddha hand Great Accomplishment realm. The 20 Golden Buddha hands kept playing, and notes flew out one after another. These notes gradually evolved and formed 3 figures. In these 3 figures, everyone seemed to see their past lives, present lives, and even future lives. This feeling was absurd, but it was so real. 3 lives, 3 worlds. The real depth of this song is to interpret the past life, present life, and future life. And now, the nine saints have done it. Just as everyone was immersed in the world of its piano music, suddenly, the sky opened up, and golden light fell down. In the golden light, a holy figure actually emerged. The holy image appeared, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared around the body of the nine saints. The holy manifestation, the realm of the kin saint. Everyone in Kashan Academy was excited. There are no immortals in the world, so the kin saint is known as the highest realm of the Kindeo in the divine realm. It takes many years for a kin saint to appear in the divine realm. It takes only a few years for the divine king realm to reach the kin saint. As the holy image appeared, a circle of holy light appeared on the body of the nine saints. Under the blessing of the holy light, his 20 golden Buddha hands shone brightly, and he actually played 3 kinds of kin sounds. And 3 different kin sounds sounded at the same time. The 3 different kin sounds not only did not make people feel noisy, but were clearly layered, as if they sounded in everyone's heart, making people feel the enjoyment of 3 different musical sounds at the same time. Then, the 20 golden Buddha hands continued to play 3 different kin sounds at the same time. The 3 different kin sounds constantly shocked everyone's hearts. When the 9 saints stopped playing, everyone was still immersed in the world of 3 lives, and 3 worlds constructed by the 9 saints can sounds for a long time. After a long time, everyone finally woke up from their dream, clapping and cheering, and the cheers were louder and louder. Even the Lord of Creation and many ancestors were full of smiles, with satisfaction in their eyes. It was obvious that the performance of the 9 saints was far beyond the original expectations of the Lord of Creation and the ancestors. Good. The Lord of Creation could not help but nod in praise. The 9 saints stood up and bowed to the Lord of Creation, saying, "Thank you, Master, for your praise." Then he turned to Yang Xiaoshan and said, "Master Yang, it's your turn." Everyone's eyes fell on Yang Xiaoshan. 3 lives 3 worlds is one of the most difficult pieces to play in the divine realm, but the young dean can perfectly interpret it to the highest level. Even if Yang Xiaoshan has the great success level of Xiangsu divine hand, he can't win the young dean. The disciples of the academy whispered, "I've said it before." The young master lost to Yang Xiaoshan because he was careless at the last apprenticeship ceremony. Otherwise, how could he lose to Yang Xiaoshan? What do you think Yang Xiaoshan will play later? Will he not play a low-level song like Dragon and Phoenix again? Many Cation Academy disciples couldn't help laughing. Listening to the mocking laughter of the Cation Academy disciples, Yang Xiaoshan came to the center of the square. "Young Master Yang, I think you should not use your xylophone. We have many good xylophones in Cation Academy. You can choose anyone to compete." An ancestor smiled at Yang Xiaoshan. "No need." Yang Xiaoshan's face was calm. "You don't have to use a piano to play." A Cation Academy disciple smiled and said, "Do you mean that you can play without a piano?" Some disciples just smiled. They really had never heard of playing without a piano. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.